What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lambo Plays Podcast, episode 112, UFC 308. I'm your host, Mike, along with my co-host, Timothy Troiano. We're still waiting for one guest. I am back from the UFC Vegas fight card from last week at the Apex. Incredible experience, guys. If you have the money, if you have if you have the time, if you have, I don't even know what else to say, but it's just such a great experience. I was just telling Tim, like, just one time in your life, if if it's hard to come with the money and go there, I understand. But if you can do it, just one time, do it. It was an amazing experience. I'll never forget. I'll be back for sure. I said that in my tweets and stuff, but man, we were rocking and rolling in there. We were like, we had, I guess one of the fighters was saying, like, is it normally like this in here? He asked the ref. I heard Cameron Smotherman was asking the ref, is it normally like this in here? Because we were absolutely going crazy. But yeah, we're still waiting on our guest. Tim, last week we cooked with the Lambo plays. I know we only gave them out in our Discord, but my goodness, did we freaking cook. You cooked with the round 3 submission on what's her name? Edwards. What was that? 50-1?
Yeah, it was
50-1 given out in the Discord from Tim. Sub 3 on Edwards. I gave out a bunch of big ones as well. I gave out the Cameron Smotherman decision at over 10-1. Couple of others too. I don't even remember what they were, but it was just such a great time last week. Made some money. It was just overall amazing. Oh, Fluffy Hernandez.
Fluffy 3 for 5 KO, yeah.
Round 5. That was amazing. Also had him by KO, which was it felt even better. Yeah, how was it last week? I know you were alone in the Discord with Josh and a couple others, but how was your card? And yeah, how are you looking at this UFC 308 card, by the way?
Yeah, dude, this I'm super excited for this card. I think that there's the main event is just the pay-per-view side of it, and the main event and the co-main are just awesome fights. Really excited for that. I think the prelims are kind of shitty. Bunch of unreliable fighters. So I'm not necessarily too excited for that, but I'm stoked for the pay-per-view. Last week was huge, man. We hit a bunch of good. We hit like 3 live spots in the Discord, and then hit a bunch of the props. And then we also got like fucking robbed on 2 props. Like we got totally robbed on KO2, KO3 for Melissa Martinez. KO2,
yeah, exactly. That was you gave
Charles
that
Johnson. That was
Charles Johnson one where he dropped him and I went back and he just shells up. Like, you got to stop that fight, bro. The guy just literally gave up. And then he recovered after, eating like 10 shots in a row, after he literally shelled up in like a baby fetal position. And dude, I had so much money on 2-3 and KO 2-3. It was KO.
Dude, I had that. I had 2-3 KO Johnson with 3-4-5 KO, both KO and sub for
in a parlay.
Yes.
Oh, that's painful.
I killed last week, but that would have been like another massive amount of money.
Dude, it was brutal. That was
Melissa Martinez kicks her straight in the stomach, and
that's 100% was a KO.
Absolutely no question a KO, and they like don't go back to it. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, how do you go to review? How do you go to a review and like ask them like, hey, was this a legal kick? And she completely stopped fighting. I mean, it wasn't like I never get it. I'll never get it.
Let me go over to my chat here. Shout him out. Our guest is in the background. I see him or her. I can't tell you guys who it is yet. So if I say him, you're going to know. If I say her, maybe you guys won't know. All right. Elijah, let's effing go. Barnett by Rolling Thunder KO. Please stop with this Barnett stuff. Can't wait to cash this great 3-unit spot on a boost, says DA07. Andrew, what is up, my man? Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. Free UFC bets. Have a great show, guys. Thank you, man. I appreciate you as well. Mushroom, what is up? One more sleep, he says. Dixon, who's the guest? You will find out in about 2 minutes. Joshua, Friday nights wouldn't be the same without Narco and Tim. Appreciate you, my man. What else do we have here? Oof, we got a lot of comments here, man. I I got to take it easy on these. Jackie Blaine, Tim, you look a lot bigger than 5'9", 155.
I'm 5'6". We talked about this. I was saying that Barnett and I are the same height, but he's got me by like 150 pounds.
Evelyn Stone, how are you? Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Azure, what is up, my man? Let's share some violence. Yeah, let's see. Matt, let's go, my man. Who else do we got here? Black M, let's go, he says. A lot of let's go today. They really want to cash these tickets. Daniel, this is such a fire card, watching the World Series game and just thinking about tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be good. Danny Link, sorry. Let's eat tomorrow. Yes, sir. Jackie Blaine says, went 23-1 last show. Look, he has a picture of me on his YouTube thing. That is too funny. That's when I went nuts after Fluffy got the round 5K. Oh, that is too damn funny. I just noticed that 30C West, Narco School and Rogan on what props to bet would be really funny. I could definitely school him. Landon, what is up? Thank you for joining. MMA Propaholic, Jussie Q, Josh Lamb. Who else? Fresh Gambles, MMA Locksmith, Jason, Rusty, what is up? Steven Jackson, Subhuman. Man, there's a lot of you in here. Drevi, what is up, my man? Thank you for joining. Killabrew. Damn, we got a lot of people. All right. Sorry, guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for joining. But I have to bring in my guest here. It is my man, Liam Picks Fights. What is up, Liam?
What's going on, gentlemen?
Short notice replacement. He made weight. He's a professional on here. And last time when he was on here, he almost hit a miraculous Lambo Parlay. I think it was like 700-1 or something crazy. And we were one leg away, Liam. But yeah, man, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. How do you feel about this UFC 308 card, my man?
I think it's a tricky card, honestly. One thing I've done is when I'm in the business of having to write up these fights every week for Roto Grinders. So I'm always trying to think of like, how can I get the analysis out? And sometimes when you don't feel very confident, you have to kind of cut it two ways, right? Like, this is how I could see it going. I could also see it going this way. And I found myself doing that a lot this week because there's a lot of cardio dynamics, I think, at play. There's a lot of volatile fights, light heavyweight, middleweight, these kind of divisions where people are swinging for their opponent's head and, shit could go crazy quickly. So for me, I think there's a lot of volatility in the card, but I'm excited and hopefully we can find some good opportunities.
Yeah,
nuance.
Definitely.
Sorry. I said nuance is really, really accepted in the MMA community, Liam. I'm sure that always goes over very, very well.
I get shit for it, but it's my analysis, and I got to put my stamp of approval on it, right? Which is for some people, they just throw shit out there. I try to stand by my analysis. So when I'm wrong, it's based on stuff I saw, based on stuff I watched, based on my research, and all I can do is try my best. So that's the way I view it, and I'm excited to see how we do this week, right? Let's put it to the test.
You're never always going to be right. I mean, everybody, if you have gambled in your life, like, it's just not going to work out that way. And you could watch all the tape you want, and then some bozo comes out, instead of wrestling, he just like, all right, let me stand today. I'm deciding not to wrestle today. And the whole, everything you watch on tape, just throw it out the window because they just don't do what they're best at or whatever. And we've seen that so much, especially in women's MMA. I mean, it happens a lot where they just completely go off of game plan or what they should be doing in order for them to give them the best chance to win. So, all right. With that being said, guys, we have 13 fights to go through. Let's start it off here in the welterweight division. It is the 23-2-1 Renat Fakhretdinov versus the 21-5 Carlos Leal. Timothy, kick us off here, my friend. And also lucrative, my man James in the house. Go ahead.
So this is an interesting fight. Leal's coming in not on short notice because he had a fight coming up anyways, but into the UFC. Wasn't training for this particular fighter, and not necessarily style of fighter in Renat. Renat's really interesting to me because I rated him like really, really high after the battle fight. And then the last couple fights, I think he's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I think this is like a similar stylistic fight to the Dos Santos fight a little bit. You got a guy who's dangerous striker, not necessarily can grapple, but it's not normally his game. And has probably better cardio than Dos Santos at his age right now. For Leal seems to be on like his acne, his back acne has acne. So it just seems like he's on some serious vitamins and supplements at this point. Coming from PFL, I'm not super surprised by that. So I think that the damage will come from Leal. I think the better damage will come from Leal. He's got to worry about getting off of his back. I'm not too sure about his ability to do that in this fight. So I think it's probably a Renat decision is his path, but I also like the decision prop and the split prop for Leal here. Like, I think he could do some damage, get better striking and better shots and better moments, and then probably get taken down for a minute and a half, 2 minutes in each round potentially, and just have the better damage and just looking probably like he's not beat up as Renat is. Renat has some bad optics later on in fights, the last couple fights. So yeah, give me the points for Leal plus 450. His split is plus 1200. If you wanted to just call it end split is plus 350, but I like the decision prop and split for him.
All right. We have a guy on the Leal side. Liam, it's your turn, my man. The first fight of the night, wrestler versus striker. Give us your analysis here and what your Lambo play is.
I don't think this is an easy fight. I think if I was to give a Lambo play for the side I'm not on, it would be Renat by submission at a big plus number, just because I don't think we've really seen Leal tested by very good grapplers throughout most of his career. He's been taken down some. He's gotten back up to his feet. But I do kind of feel like, maybe we could see some success for Renat if it gets there. However, I think Leal is a live underdog in the spot. Just looking at the matchup, I've faded Renat his last 2 times out. Fuck me, right? I mean, you look at the guy, he goes out there, he loses to Dalby. They give it to him anyway. Fair play. He was on the verge of being TKO 3 there. And then you look at Easy Dos Santos. I had a bet there. Easy Dos Santos virtually TKO'd him in round 3. I don't know what the referee was waiting for. But in any case, didn't get the nod, right? So it's like draw and split decision run out. He's a big favorite again. What could go wrong? I don't know. I'd look at a guy like Leal, knockout at plus 4XX, 5XX. I think that's the spot. You have to shop around on books. I think you can get 5 still. But ultimately, this guy's been on the verge of being knocked out twice in a row against guys that I don't think hit as hard as this. I think Easy Dos is up there, but he's certainly old, right? Leal is a guy who seems like a primed fighter who wants to be here, who can go out there and beat other quality guys. Sawada, these guys that are former UFC fighters, former championship level guys, and Ray Cooper. I think that Leal is not a bad fighter. So I think his path is a close decision here, which he probably won't get, or that knockout. So that's why I think the knockout is the play for the Lambos, plus 500. Let's see if he can put him to sleep. Renat's been on the verge a couple of times now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting first fight here and an interesting late replacement opponent here in the sense that I think this guy poses a lot more problems than Rizaboyev, right? Because Rizaboyev takedown defense is pretty awful. And, this guy is just going to land takedowns at will against Rizaboyev. I don't think that's the case with Leal. I think he does all the right things when I've seen takedowns being shot against him. He digs under hooks. He sprawls. He's pretty damn strong. He does all the right things when the one thing is I haven't really seen him much on his back. I think it was once versus C where it was kind of it was like a weird, I think he was kicking and he got his leg caught or something. He got taken down, but it was very short because it was at the end of the round. So there wasn't really much to see. But in the other instances where he was taken down, he literally popped right back up. He grabs the whizzer, boom, straight on his feet. He doesn't like, resting on the ground at all. He does actually proactively grapple in some of his fights, but obviously he's not going to do that here, right? I honestly like his hands a lot. The one thing I like with his hands is the fact that he doesn't throw one punch at a time. It's 2, 3, 4 punches at a time. Nasty, nasty body shots. He loves going to the body. And I think those things are very important in this fight. Attritional work like that, body shots. Digging body shots also makes you, as a wrestler, not really want to shoot because you can run into those fucking shots going up there. And while you're shooting, you can eat one of them. So those are good in that sense, right? The other thing is throwing combinations is very good as well because it's not easy to shoot when you're throwing 3, 4. But one big overhand, sure, you can time one big overhand and shoot under and get a takedown. So I do think this guy carries a lot of power. Leal, I've seen him put people out with one punch. He hurts a lot of guys. Renat's defense is atrocious on the feet, especially when he gets tired, guys. When this guy gets tired, defense is all out the window. Hands down. He's hands down, like plotting forward. And you just don't want to do that with Leal, man. I honestly think that how I see this fight playing out is if Leal has the takedown defense and the get-up game here and makes this guy work, I think he's going to cook him in round 2 and 3. I really freaking do. Because Zaleski dos Santos was this close to cooking this guy. But I don't think Zaleski dos Santos hits as hard as Leal. I don't. And he's up there, like you said, in age, right? Dalby definitely doesn't really hit hard. He's more of like a volume guy, right? So I think Leal, I do think Renat's chin is pretty good. But once he gets tired, man, holy moly, he does not, the optics do not look good. And I honestly think Leal can get the KO here in rounds 2 and 3. It's plus 1,000. I don't think it happens early just because he's going to be a little concerned with the takedowns and trying to stuff him and kind of feel out, Renat and see how strong he is, stuff like that. But I think as the fight goes on, I really think he can find the KO. And somebody made a good point. I actually wrote it in my write-up because I did play Leal on the money line. I do think Renat is weak to the body because Dalby hurt him to the body in round 3. And that's the kick to the body was the one that dropped him against Zaleski. So that's the other thing with Leal. He teeps to the body. He'll teep you to the body. So, yeah, I just hope he does work the body. It's funny. I sent him a message on IG, and he responded to me. He actually responded 2 different times. So I'll tell you guys what he said. He said, I'm knocking this dude out. So that's what Leal said. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but I do think this guy can definitely find the knockout here later in the fight. So I'm going to give out round 2, 3 KO for Carlos Leal here. Moving on, fight number 2. It is in the middleweight division. It is the 23-11 Bruno Silva versus the 23-7 Ismail Nardev. Second stint in the UFC. What do you have here, Liam? This one's yours, brother.
Oh, goodness. I don't love this fight. I'll just level with you guys on that. I think you've got 2 guys that are both chinny, right? Like I don't trust either one of their chins. I think that Nardev is more chinny than Bruno Silva, but I think both of them, if you're getting hurt by Brendan Allen after hurting him in the first round, I'm definitely a little bit concerned. I don't think Brendan's a bad fighter, but the way that fight played out, it was just not a great look, in my opinion. And also you see the Gerald Meerschaert fight. He got knocked the fuck out by my boy, right? A guy I love, but certainly a guy that claims most of his wins for jiu-jitsu. I think when I'm looking at this fight, how am I going to try and target it? Let's see what the prices are. Silva KO 410. That's it for me. When I look at this, like this guy Nardev literally got dropped by a grappler 2 fights ago. He's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. He's been finished in both of those losses. Is he a real middleweight? Doesn't look like it to me. You've got a guy who's 1-5 in his last couple in Bruno Silva. They job him out all the time. They give him to guys that they don't want to see him do well against. You can kind of see the track record, right? But last time out against Weidman, I cashed the ticket and it was complete fugazi, right? Like I'm happy it worked out. I thought it was going to work out. I thought they might screw him for my guy Weidman, right? The All-American in America, jam me in the eye, still take the win, all that stuff. But was it fair? Was it like fairly adjudicated and above board? No, it was a complete criminal show. So I think that when you look at Atlantic City, don't ever bet on the cards in Atlantic City unless you're prepared to get robbed. They are just criminals there. There's no seriousness at all. But when you look at, this kind of fight in Abu Dhabi, if this goes to the scorecards, I think they're going to screw Bruno Silva again, right? I don't think they're going to give it to him. I don't think they're giving him a fair shake. But I think that, can he knock this guy the hell out? Yeah, 100%. So at plus 410, I think that's the option.
Yeah, I like that breakdown. I don't want to say Bruno is chinny, just in the sense that, he has a shit ton of fights and he's never actually been KO'd. Obviously, he's been hurt.
Yes.
The Mearshart one was definitely trending towards a KO.
He was out. He was out.
Yeah,
DM3 claimed that for jiu-jitsu. I swear to God.
Yeah, he clubbed and subbed him. But I just don't want to say he's chinny in the sense that when you're taking the shots he took from Alex Poatan Pereira, I can't really say this dude. Like, he took some bombs in that fight, and I respect him for that. I really do. But, like you mentioned, he's been hurt a bunch. Nardev is very explosive. And if you're telling me skill for skill, it's definitely Nardev. Like, the guy is very skillful. He's fast. He's got good wrestling. He's got good power, good striking. But this guy, I'm going to use the term, is a flake. He's literally a flake, man. When he is the best hammer in the world. But the minute he turns into the nail, it's done, guys. Like, the guy's done. He's checked out. And it's in a lot of his fucking fights, man. It's like this guy checks out somehow mentally, or I don't know what it is, because the guy is skilled. He's young. He's only 28 years old. Like, if this guy had more willpower and he was stronger mentally, I think he can be a real problem, because I do think his striking is very, very fucking good, powerful, fast, very good kicks, right? And this guy was an three-time Austrian national champion in wrestling. I'm not saying that's a big deal, but you still have to be good to be a national champion in an entire country, right? No matter where it is. So the thing with this guy is, like, every time I turn on his tape, he's looking impressive. He was killing that guy Kutsi, destroyed his leg, right? Absolutely putting it on him. And then one punch lands and he's all of a sudden out, covering, shelling up. He's like, oh, I'm done. Like, what the fuck happened, bro? You can't take one punch? So I kind of see it the same way you're seeing it, like, where Silva is a kind of a dog. Like, if you hurt him, he's going to come back. Meanwhile, when this guy gets hurt, he's like, I'm done. Checks out, right? So it could definitely be Silva by KO. And I looked at that. The line just didn't attract me. It was only 4-1. And that's what kind of put me off. However, I do see a world where this fight goes to decision. Maybe both guys get hurt. Both guys kind of survive. It's 6-1 by split here. Is it guaranteed that this fight ends inside the distance? I don't think so. Like, I think Nardev can hurt him early, but I think the longer this fight goes, it might be favoring Silva, just because the experience, the UFC experience. He's been in, wars like this. And so I'm just going to give out the split. I don't really love this fight. Like you mentioned, I really don't. I don't really have like some strong take on this. If I was to take a money line, I probably play Silva, to be honest, even at this age, even at this juncture in his career, just because I just feel like he has a little bit more dog in him, right? He's the one that's going to fight for my money, as opposed to a guy that I continually see like not really fighting for my money when he gets hurt, So plus 600 split for me. Tim, what do you got here?
I raised my arm, man. I've already signaled to the people what I'm going with. Yeah, dude, I don't have much to add. You guys did really good breakdowns. I'm going end split. Just seems like a minutes versus moments type fight. Both of these guys are just totally unreliable fighters to me, so I don't want anything to do with them on a money line perspective. I do think the line is slightly wide for Narnia, just coming in up a weight class, fighting some bums. Yeah, I think the Ferreira fight broke Silva. I think that he took so much damage in that fight that he wasn't able to take any damage very much since then. Both these guys, I think, potentially could get grappling success, but I don't think that they will unless they're hurt. So, yeah, end split plus 600. Good by me.
All right. Let's move on. Fight number 3. It is not in the bantamweight division. It's in the featherweight division, because one of the fighters decided to come in as a featherweight, and that's 25-4 Victor Hugo versus the 12-0 Farid Basharat. And I'll kick this one off. I gave a play to my Discord, and I told him round 2, round 3 Basharat, and sprinkled the round 2, round 3 KO, right? Because I think this guy, and in my breakdown, this is a couple days ago, In my breakdown, I said this guy, Victor Hugo, has a hard time cutting weight to 35. He's got to fly all the way to Abu Dhabi here. And I was looking at his Instagram, dude, and he flew into Abu Dhabi 4 days ago. Like, that's just very, very stupid, right? He didn't give himself enough time. And the one thing that I've talked to other people that have, that know fighters that have fought there, it's extremely hard to cut weight there. You need to go early. You literally need to go at least a week, week and a half in advance to cut weight there, because it's not easy to cut weight there for whatever reason. The weather, I don't know what's the deal. But this guy goes in late, and I said to my Discord, I said, this guy's going to have a hard time cutting weight. And with that being said, if he decides to cut the weight and tries to make it, he's going to be spent, right? Well, this guy comes in at 145 pounds. I've never seen anything like this. The guy comes in 10 pounds heavy, and Basharat takes the fight. And Basharat weighs in at 137. And it's kind of like mind-boggling that he took this fight at 145. Like, why? The whole premise of this guy, Hugo, is he wants to be bigger. He can't. Basharat's going to have a hard time probably grappling him because he's so much bigger than him. But I still don't believe in this guy's cardio. I think he goes way too hard, way too explosive. All his movements are explosive. Spinning back kicks, spinning back fists. You know, he's going for knee bars and leg locks and all types of shit, submissions, you know. He's going to go for it. I can tell you that. That's just what he does on tape. There was one fight I watched on his regional scene. He fought at 175 and absolutely knocked the guy out with one punch. Stone cold out. And the guy looked like, when they were in the ring, the guy literally looked like he was 60 pounds heavier than them. Like, why are these guys fighting? And then he just ices the guy. So the guy has power, apparently. He has good jiu-jitsu, and he's dangerous, right? I have a couple of plays on this because I think Basharat's a very smart fighter. I think he's a very good fighter overall, right? Good fight IQ, good striking, good grappling, right? He's a complete fighter to me. Good cardio. But I have seen him make mistakes with the grappling where he's put himself in submissions, right? Bagoso almost got him. Who was the other guy that got him in a triangle? If there was 10 more seconds, the fight was done. Blackshear at the end of the fight. If there was 10 more seconds in that, he's probably going to sleep, dude. Like, he was like turning blue. And the one thing with Hugo is he's going to attack submissions. So to put sub on this guy at 35-1, it's insane to me. I'm telling you guys, because he goes for meme subs, knee bars, ankle, you know, heel hooks, all these fucking meme subs. Yeah, he probably shouldn't get it against Basharat, but the guy is good at them, and he can. If he gets you in a knee bar and you can't get out, you're probably going to have to fucking tap. Otherwise, your knee blows. So 35-1 is kind of egregious. And he's coming in this heavy. You know, he's gonna be heavier. That's one. The other one is I'm still gonna go with round 2, round 3 on Basharat, just because I don't think this guy has good cardio. And Basharat, it bothers me because there's so many guys that he's had kind of on death's door, but he just doesn't finish. He doesn't have those. He throws good ground and pound, good elbows, good everything, but he just, I don't know what it is that he just doesn't go for it, you know? And that's a bit of a concern because I'm playing 2-3 and maybe he doesn't, but I did see him extremely pissed off at face-offs. Maybe he wants to make a statement here in Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure, but 2-3 is it's 750 and 1100. I kind of lean KO, honestly, over sub, believe it or not. 2-3 KO is like 1600. That's where I'm leaning here. But yeah, I think 35-1 is disrespectful on the sub prop for Hugo. Tim, what do you have?
Yeah. The other thing I'd say about traveling 3-4 days before you're fighting or just any competition, when you're traveling that far, dude, the jet lag is for real. And like your sleep schedule is fucked. Like it's one of the hardest things in tennis that we've done, like just traveling with people over and over and over. It's like, dude, you have to go from these like far across the country. It takes you a solid week at least to just get your sleep schedule right and just the jet lag is just gone. So that's not going to be easy for him to deal with. I said in the chat, like, I think that the sub for Hugo is kind of his money line. I think he's a meme sub is kind of how he wins. Other than that, I don't think that but just Bash doesn't allow people to get off strikes against him really that well. Like he's very risk averse in the striking and just gets to the grappling as quickly as he can. I think Fareed subs him here because I think it's 2-3 as well. So I like sub. It's like a 5,000 miles on that Lambo. And then round 2, round 3, just plain round 2, round 3, just in case he gets the KO. But I think he's going to sub him because of all of the opportunities to pass and advance positions as Hugo's going to be trying to go for these fucking leg locks and things like that. He's not going to play guard. So I just think that he's going to give him multiple opportunities to pass. And I think that is going to be where Fareed kind of puts him in some major trouble. So yeah, give me Fareed by sub, round 2, round 3 for him.
All right, Liam, my man, this is a little bit of a grappler's delight, I can say. I guess both guys are kind of like grapplers. What do you have here?
Oh, I think it's a tricky one. I'll just disclose up front, right? I like to disclose biases. If I'm going to tell you why I like Nick Piccinini, I'm going to tell you that I'm from the great state of New York and I'm biased as shit. But when you're looking at a fight like this, Victor Hugo came back and commented on my predictions on Contender Series. He gave me a little flowers in the comment section. So, we got a soft spot in our heart for him, right? We picked the guy. A lot of people were like, oh, this guy's so janky. I saw what Narco saw. I'm like, he's killing guys that are twice his size. He doesn't care about fighting nobody, not afraid of anybody. So I'm like, this guy seems to me like a typical Brazilian killer, right? Like go out there, kill somebody. And if it don't work out, hey, maybe I get killed today. Maybe I just have to move on with my day. And you look, he's got 3 losses inside the distance. It's not like he's never been finished before, but he hasn't always competed in the right weight classes. I do think he is like all over the place with his weight. He can't make the weight at 135. He continues to insist on making it anyway and trying to at least. And he couldn't make it in Vegas, like much less coming over here with all the factors that Mike was talking about. So I think to myself, okay, now what am I looking at? I'm looking at a guy, that I don't really, I don't rate the, I'm trying to think of the right word here. I don't rate Fareed as like, a top echelon guy necessarily, because I feel like he still needs to prove a little bit more in terms of the finishing equity. Mike had mentioned that. I've seen that too, right? When he's going against somebody he should absolutely finish, and then he's having some closer moments. That's the thing I don't like. The thing I do like is I believe he's the better Basharat brother. I think he's got a chance to go out there and put this guy on the ground late in the fight, and that's his best opportunity. We saw Hugo Torres Coat or whatever the hell his name. I've drawn a blank on the guy's name. Torres Coat, though, was getting him to the ground. He had Hugo in a couple awkward situations. Hugo is very opportunistic. That's how I would describe his grappling. That guy made one mistake. He put his leg in there. He locked up the leg lock. And if you guys watch that, it was actually really clean mechanics as well. He kept re-cinching the knee bar and then exerted into it when he had it leveraged against his chest. And it was a brutal finish. So I think that he is a dangerous grappler. That being said, the better process grappler is Fareed. The better cardio-based grappler is Fareed. So I think that Victor Hugo's win condition is round 1 or round 2 in this fight. I think that he can beat anybody in round 1 and round 2. Honestly, like he's not going to beat everybody. He's not going to be favored to beat everybody, but he can hit people very hard and then they don't move, or he can lock onto something that they have to respect or chokes them unconscious or rips their knee apart. Those are the things that I see as his path to victory. I don't think they're giving him the cards after missing weight by 1,000,000 pounds. And I don't think that when you look at the Basharat brothers, that this was set up by accident. And I think that they look at these guys as guys that they want to market and promote. They tried to do, what's his name? Javid, I think, right? They tried to do Javid a favor by giving him my boy Ayman Zahabi. How'd that work out for you, right? So giving my boys to these guys, the Basharat brothers, it may not be the ticket that the UFC is looking for, right? They're getting a little more than they bargained for, but I have to just call it the way I see it. I agree with Mike. Round 2, round 3 for Basharat is the way that I would look to play it. And if I was on Victor Hugo, I wouldn't get cute. I would just take the inside the distance. It's like 12-1. So like, that's just, I don't see him winning if this fight goes the cards, but I think that if the fight ends inside the distance and it ends in round 1, I wouldn't feel confident saying that Basharat won that fight, honestly. That's just the way I see it. With a guy this big, this strong, that hits this hard, and that has enough energy for 5 minutes, I think that for 5 minutes, it's going to be an absolute slugfest, but I just don't trust my guy, Victor Hugo, as the fight gets deeper.
Yeah, I totally agree. Narco's internet just went out, so we're gonna continue through, and then we'll get him back as soon as that comes back on. So I'll just be running it till he gets back. The next fight is going to be Kennedy Nchukwu versus Fat Chris Barnett. I think that's his nickname, Fat Barnett. Liam, what do you got to think? What do you think is going to happen in this fight?
Here's my Lambo play. The ends by submission. I think that when you look at this fight, it's an ugly fight. It's not a, great fight. The other, Lambo that you could look at is Barnett money line, right? Because I just think Kennedy Nchukwu is not a very trustworthy individual. He's lost twice in a row as a favorite. Last time he was minus 700. Now he's going up to heavyweight. What could go wrong? I do think he's built better than Chris Barnett, right? He looks like an athlete. He's longer, taller. He's more functional for fighting, but he doesn't have a great chin, in my humble opinion. I think that if you look at how he reacts to getting hit, it's not very good. He's moving up from light heavyweight to heavyweight. I don't know that reaction is going to get better. Perhaps it will. Not cutting any weight, but I don't think he's cutting a lot of weight, right? Like I don't think he's like a massive light heavyweight compared to some other guys. So now he's moving into the heavyweight division where he's going to be a little undersized, except against Barnett. And so I just think Barnett is up to his hip, right? And what is Kennedy and Nchukwu's like go to? It would be that front choke series. And I just think that, he's going to have an opportunity here. Also, Barnett's done some grappling matches in the past. Kennedy's 1-1 career to the sub. Would I be that stunned if he got hurt in this fight? Fell in on a bad shot and then Huggy Bear takes his back or something stupid. No, I think this fight is awful. I don't think either one of these guys is quality. So could I see random stupid shit happening here? Absolutely. And for those reasons, I think the end sub is a creative way to play it. Everybody's going to be on the KO here. The fight not to go is probably going to be juiced beyond belief. And I just think he could hurt him. And Huggy Bear has weird reactions when he gets hurt. If you remember, he kind of had that one with Boudet where he's getting hurt to the body and starting to bend over at the waist and those things. That is front headlock city. So
what is the line on the end sub?
I think it's 5-1. And Kennedy sub is 6-1. So for me, I'd rather just, get the best available end sub price and not be cute.
Narco, you back, man. Let us know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. My internet completely went out. I have no idea. It's from the company. But sorry, guys. I'm back. I tried to connect to my computer, but no dice. Where are you guys at? Which fight? Sorry.
We are on Kennedy versus Fat Barnett.
Okay. Did you guys both go?
No, you go ahead. I haven't gone yet.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was basically on this. I like the same thing. I agree with that's why I asked the line on. I was going to go Kennedy sub, but end sub is better. But I also don't hate Kennedy sub 2, Kennedy sub 3, plus 2,100, plus 3,100. This is as too many, but it's the sub points for Kennedy 2 fading a KO is plus 240. I mean, I like the end sub and the sub 2, sub 3 the most. The thing about Fat Barnett to me is he's documented as the only fighter in the UFC to have fought through a stroke and gotten a win. He literally had a stroke versus who was it? Collier, right? Yeah, if you look at his face in that fight, he's literally half of his face is completely down, and he's it was scary. I thought the dude was gonna fucking die, and then somehow he gets one of the biggest memes I've ever seen, and so I just think that he could literally have a stroke for the second time here, and this time he maybe gets subbed here, hopefully in second round or third round by Kennedy. So yeah, I think Kennedy end sub, Kennedy sub 2, sub 3 for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think here's the thing. I do think Barnett early on, he's moving around. He uses a lot of footwork for a big guy early. And I feel like Kennedy is kind of a slow starter. He really doesn't throw a lot early, but kind of picks it up in later rounds. The thing with Barnett is he seems to get hurt in fights, but somehow, some fucking way, people can't put him out that easy, And the guy is 38 or 39 now, hasn't really fought. He's been out. The guy doesn't even look like he trains, to be honest. He's beat nobodies in the UFC. I mean, Collier win was was pretty bad. Like, I don't know how he pulled that off. And the other one was Volante, who didn't even train for the damn fight. And he wasn't looking good in that fight either. And then, you know, he got that meme as well. I don't see a world where this fight goes to decision. I truly believe I think it's minus 350 on DraftKings. I think that's value. I don't see a world where this fight goes GTD. But Kennedy sub 6-1 and Kennedy sub 2-3 is 13-1. It's kind of one of those where he's probably going to hurt Barnett. Barnett's going to shoot some sloppy ass, and it's going to be some type of front headlock, front choke, similar to the one against, can't even remember the guy now, in PFL. The big dude. Rothwell? Was it Ben Rothwell that subbed him with the front choke?
Yes.
Yeah, so Ben Rothwell, I think it's going to be kind of similar. Kennedy does like his front choke. He's got long arms. And the easy way out for Chris Barnett after being hurt is something like that. So, yeah, 2-3 sub, 1,300 sub. Just sub alone is 6-1. I don't mind it. Moving on. Fight number 5. It is in the middleweight division. It is the 26-6-1 Abus Magomedov versus the 12-1 Bruno Ferreira. Is that Liam? Yeah, it's Liam's turn.
Again, when I talk about these fights being pretty perplexing for me, this is another one where, on the one hand, like, I think that Abus should probably be the favorite. I think he's probably the more deserving side here. I think him by KO1. Let's see what that is. At plus 500, it's all right. It's not a great price, but I just think more often than not, when you put these two guys together, Bruno Ferreira is the much smaller guy. He takes a lot of risks. I do think that could get him knocked out. I also think that's the way that he wins the fight, right? It's like taking some big risks, coming forward, trying to put hands on this guy. He can definitely be hurt, right? We've seen Abus Magomedov get hurt in PFL. We've seen him get hurt in the UFC. So I don't think that he's like a rock solid, you hit him in the chin, like nothing can hurt him. I think he can be hurt. He's a normal mortal man, but he's a much bigger guy. He throws the front kicks up the middle. We saw that damage Dustin Stoltzfus really bad right off the rip. I kind of see Bruno Ferreira, because of his stature, because of how low he is to the ground, because of how he's always swinging and moving with the hands kind of near his face. He could be right up the middle for these shots, right? And I do think those linear attacks, good way to get to him. The other thing I wanted to note, I've heard a lot of people talking about the wrestling dynamic in this fight. I honestly can't make a great judgment call on this one. I think that the size and the defense should play a factor for Abus, but this guy has weird judo. He's done it for 23 years, and he's like grabbing 2-on-1 grips and like rolling people over the top. It's not traditional. It's not very normal techniques, but he's built uniquely, right? He's like a small, stout guy who's got like the turtle back, and he can throw people around. He's very physically strong. So I think his ultimate future is in the welterweight division. Maybe he can have success at middleweight, but he's always going to be undersized. He's always going to have to manage that. And I think that when you look at this guy, Abus Magomedov, he's been in UFC main events. He's been at the top level. So for me, I got to give him that ever so slight edge. But one guy has ever knocked out Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez in the UFC. He's 7-2. He went to a split decision with Armin Petrosyan, a guy a lot of us respect. And yet this guy knocked him dead instantly. And I know that there were some short notice elements there, but watch the combination. He's like moving, shifting, getting him out of position, and then kills him. And I'm just like, this guy has some idea of what he wants to do in the pocket. He's just willing to take a lot of risks to do it, right? His hands are low, and he's moving his head and hoping for the best. So that could lead to a crazy knockout for him. But I think more often than not, he's going to get clipped in this one.
Yeah, extremely dangerous guy in round one. I mean, all of his finishes are round one. He hits very hard. He swings for the fences, but he also gasses pretty damn hard. Like, look at the last fight. I mean, he was absolutely getting fucking murdered in that fight prior to memeing Stoltzfus. You know, Stoltzfus was putting it on him. The front kick landed right in his face. And honestly, if Abus lands that front kick, he's going to kill him because he has very good, powerful kicks. Very long guy, physical guy. I think I favor him in the wrestling for sure. I think Abus can wrestle this guy. I kind of, when looking at Ferreira, I kind of think he is a more powerful Warley Alves, because Alves does chuck big shots as well, but he's older. He just doesn't have the power that Ferreira has. But I think they're kind of similar, right? Alves kind of gassy. And I do think Ferreira can get taken down. But I think if you're going to play Ferreira for me, like, why play his money line? Like, just play his KO 1-2 probably, right? He's not going to get a round 3 or a decision. I highly doubt it, And with that being said, I like a boost later rounds here again. I know they said his cardio is a little questionable, but there's only one guy here that's been 3 rounds multiple times, and that's a boost, right? And he has wins in 3 rounds. The other guy just has never been out of round 1. So it's like, and he's looked horrible in some of these fights, how tired he's looked. So I'm going to go with 2-3, a boost. I think it could be, more than likely it's going to be KO, but I could see some kind of, sub because this guy's just so damn tired, So yeah, I like 2-3 here in a boost. Tim, what do you have here?
I was listening to Liam's, but I didn't hear the prediction on the actual Lambo. What was that again? For Liam's?
KO1.
KO1, perfect. Thanks. Yeah, I mean,
and if it's a similar price, ends KO1 would be even better.
Yeah, I just think it's I'm going to go back to the well with a boost by decision. I think that there's a good chance that he could gas out similarly to his last fight with Worley. I mean, he had mount on Worley and he couldn't finish. Like there was positions that he had, add the gloves. I just think that there's if you're like coaching a boost, you're telling him like use your range. Like there's no reason to get into a firefight with this guy. Like stay at range, clinch him up, try to, if you want to try to take him down, okay, but that could gas you out. So like just use your length, use your height, stay away from the big shot that you can't, just really look for the big shot, look for him countering you, get in and out, and just point fight this guy and like don't get into a firefight with him. So you add like the gloves and you add all the lack of finishing at these fights. Like I just think that it's the decision equity for Abus is just much, much greater in this fight. And I mean, I honestly could see it be like, I could definitely see a KO1 for Bruno. So don't get me wrong, but I think that if he gets out of the first 7 minutes, I think that this is, it should be time to roll. And I think just in general, the minutes that Bruno's not winning minutes against anyone. Like he just is not, he's not winning minutes first anyway. It's not his style. He doesn't know how to really process strike at all. He's just looking for one big shot. So yeah, give me a boost by decision, plus 550.
All right. That's a nice line. A boost by decision plus 550. All right, let's move on. Fight number 6. It is in the lightweight division at a catchweight, actually, of 160. Do you guys know who requested the catchweight by any chance? Because I don't know.
No, I couldn't find information about that.
I'm assuming it's Rebecki just because Orolbai came in at 159. But I don't know. I honestly don't
think
know.
Rebecki did that once before, too. Let me double check that.
Yeah, because one guy weighed 159, the other one weighed 160. I'm assuming it's the guy that weighed 160 that wanted the catch weight, but again, I don't know for sure. It's a guess. Anyways, Orolbai 13-1-1 versus the 19-2 Matthias Rebecki, and I will kick this one off. I think this is a good fight. I went back and forth on this one because I kind of think the line is wide on Orolbai here. It's pushing 3-1, and he's fighting probably his toughest test to date in Rebecki, and the price is very similar, if not less, than Brenner. Brenner was minus 250, and now all of a sudden he's 330 against arguably a better fighter in Rebecki, right? Rebecki last time out doing well, right, in round 1, dropped Ferreira, was looking good, and then the fucking gas tank went on E, and it was shortly over thereafter. He got absolutely destroyed in round 2 at the end of that round, and then finished in round 3. Here's how I think of this fight. I think the better technical striker is Orolbai, right? Even though the guy's a wrestler, I think his striking is actually pretty good. The guy that throws more heat is probably Rebecki, but he's kind of sloppy, right? He's throwing big overhands, huge leg kicks. Maybe those come into play here, but I like the fact that Orolbai is light on his feet, right? He's not very heavy on the front foot. You can't easily kick him because he's moving a lot.
And to be honest, there's a huge cardio edge here, in my opinion. That's just based on what I saw. And Orolbai, I think, has a very big cardio edge of the two guys. He's going to mix in the wrestling. I don't know how much success he's going to have, but he's going to mix it in. He's going to mix in the striking. He's going to pressure. And I just think Rebecki might eventually break here again. Honestly, just the matchup to me is not the best matchup for Rebecki. I'm going again to the well 2-3 here, 700 and 1,000. I think there's a big disparity in cardio. I think Orolbai's cardio, despite looking tired in round 3 against Brenner in a high-paced back-and-forth fight, I think he's going to break this guy, man. And then we find out that after that fight, we find out he had food poisoning, man, and he fought like that. This guy, I'm telling you guys, has insane cardio. To me, from what I've seen, this guy has very good cardio. I think he's the better striker of the two. I wanted to play Rebecki, man. I really did, because I think he's a good fighter, but I think this is a problem matchup for him. So I'm going to go with the 2-3 here on Orolbai to get the finish against the guy that, I've seen gas big time in the last fight. So give me Orolbai here, 2-3, 700 and 1,000. Tim?
That was my read early, and then I switched it. I don't know why I'm going with this, but I'm it's basically just playing the numbers on this one for me. I think that Rebecki, I think this is like massive overcorrection from Rebecki's money line in the last fight. And obviously I think that line was incorrect. He clearly was too big of a favorite versus CDF just in the matchup. It was a tough stylistic matchup for him. Diego Ferreira is like extremely he's like a fucking snake on the ground, and just transitions is just so fucking good. Also, he just seemed to be on all the juice in that fight coming back, and had just super cardio. And I mean, we saw Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie just work with him so hard in the first round of their fight, and just died, basically just got outlasted. So I just think that he's just really tough matchup for Rebecki. And Rebecki had him dead. Like, he had him dead to rights in the first round, just cardio dumped. Rebecki also cardio dumped against Fior. Rebecki is 3-0 in decisions. I feel like this fight could be close. Like, I feel like Rebecki needs to win the first 2 rounds. Like, he has to win the first 2 rounds in order to win this fight, or KO him in round 1. But I just think that if it's grappling, and it's primarily grappling, I think that Rebecki has more of a chance. I think Brenner was able to sweep and get in really good positions against Oroboi, and I just feel like I think we'll just see the physicality. I just think that the number is kind of wide. So I'm going to take a shot on Rebecki by decision, plus 600, split plus 1,400, and split is plus 450. I think this could be a much closer fight than it's lined right now. And I just think if it's grappling for the first 2 rounds, I think it's a lot closer than the line says. And I think that it's possible that Rebecki could sneak a decision. But I do think that Orolbai's cardio, like you said, is significantly better. I think if it is a really tough fight in the first 2 rounds, that third round is going to be super live for a finish for Orolbai.
All right, Liam, what do you got in this crazy, 2 crazy wrestlers, honestly?
Yeah, I can't say that I love this one. This is going to be on the lower end of the Lambo plays, but I've been feeling the KOs on the prelims, and I think that the KO is live again here, and this time for Orolbai. I don't think Rebecki is out of, impossible that he could win by KO, but I would be a little surprised by it, right? And the reason being is I think that this guy, Miktabek Orolbai, is like caveman, just can get hit in the head, keep moving forward, keeps a positive attitude about it, hard fight, keeps moving forward, keeps trying to win, doesn't give up on himself. And those are the kind of attributes I need to see from somebody when they're favored to win a UFC fight, right? So I do think he's the rightful favorite here because he's big, he's aggressive, he's well-rounded, And I think that he's got a never say die attitude. When you look at the Rebecki side, I think that he is a gangster, right? Like he was willing to take some shots from CDF before he went down in that fight, but he's just a little too hittable, right? He's there to be hit. I think he's got a pretty basic game. He did a great job with Loic Radzhabov, and I think that kind of inflated his sales a little bit, but he's undersized for the division. He's throwing a lot of reckless shots in terms of the offense early. He dropped CDF. That was a great look, but the finishing instincts weren't quite there. So then you're like, okay, doesn't put him away, gives him another chance, and then gets blasted. Like his face was destroyed, and he's coming back. What happens if he gets hit in the head again and his fucking face swells up? He couldn't see. It's not like he didn't want to keep fighting. It's just the damage was really bad, and he swole up really bad. If you look at this Orolbai guy, he's knocked people dead on the regional, like hit them and they just fall over like a statue. And I do worry when you've got a guy like Rebecki and you're coming off a KO loss where your face got jacked up really badly and you looked like a victim of a violent crime. And now you got to fight this massive guy who hits like a truck. And if he gets you down, he's not going to try, I don't think, to be Johnny Sophisticato with the grappling against Rebecki, because Rebecki's good at grappling. He's probably going to try and roll his wrist and punch him as hard as he can in the head a bunch of times. And I think that that's a better path. So for me, I think Orolbai has a chance to win this. I think probably late, but also if he connects early with the power, like I just think that the guy hits very, very hard. So I respect Rebecki. Some people say he's my doppelganger. I'm rooting for him in that sense, but ultimately, I just think he's a little bit undersized here. And unless he's able to get a submission off, like catch Orolbai shooting in for a bad takedown, something like that, I just think he's going to get overwhelmed by the pace and pressure here.
Orolbai did have 28% Cro-Magnon blood in his DNA. They've actually tested it, so just want to let you guys know that.
All right, that's another little good tip there from Tim. Moving on. Fight number 7. It is in a welterweight division. It is the 15-6 Jeff Neal versus the 32-16 RDA, fighting on his birthday. Tim, this one's yours.
I mean, this is another one of those fights where it's just like, okay, just value losers. Like I think there's like multiple value losers in this card, where you're just looking at the line and you're like, oh, the line is wide, but I think this, the money line, I'm not taking a shot on the money line just because I think this fighter is going to lose. Or I think, I think the line is wide here. I think in certain fights, I think Jeff Neal is going to be much, much faster. I don't see RDA getting any like takedowns in this fight whatsoever. I think he'll try to get a couple. I don't think he'll be successful. I think the path for RDA is to clinch him and to try to get him on the cage as much as he can. Going up to this weight class, he hasn't had nearly as much success doing, being physical with guys in the clinch and being able to hold them, which is kind of a concern. The Neal Magny fight versus Jeff Neal was like, that was all Magny did against him, was just cage, push, and then outstruck him in round 3. I think that's kind of the path here for RDA. I don't think he's dead on the feet, so don't get me wrong, but I think it's much closer than the line says on the feet striking. But I do think that Jeff Neal is much like quicker, he has a lot more power if he does connect. I don't see him KOing RDA, but I think that it's like an end split or RDA kind of decision or split for me. Like I don't see either guy finishing, and I think it's potentially a close fight. So if you're on, RDA, I would do the decision at 5-1, split 12-1, end split just by itself is 4-1. I think it's potentially a little bit closer than the line suggests, but it's most likely a Neal decision.
All right, Liam, what do you got for this matchup here?
Yeah, I think if you want to go for, a real long shot, then you take Dos Anjos by submission at 11-1. When you look at the Neal by KO line, I think it's probably accurate. I do worry about RDA coming back up to 170 at 40 years of age. I don't think Jeff Neal has been as animalistic or as aggressive, as violent as he used to be in his recent run of fights. I also think we're seeing that with the results, right? Just not having the same results he used to have. He's had 3 finishes since 2019, and they're over Nico Price, Mike Perry, and Vicente Luque, guys that are like a generation prior of the UFC, right? I used to love Vicente Luque, but his fall off needs to be studied. So there's a couple of these fights where you look back at RDA and his fight against Vicente Luque wasn't very inspiring, right? Because he got out grappled. But then the question is like, is Jeff Neal going to out grapple him? That's how he typically loses at 170. He gets out grappled. He gets out wrestled. The other guy's too strong, too physical for him. And I think that that is a concern here, right? Is if he can't get Jeff Neal to the ground, he's probably going to be out strength, out physicaled, out powered, and he's going to have to really pick his shots on the feet. He's a clever southpaw himself, but Jeff Neal is a murderer, right? Like when he does start swinging, he's throwing uppercuts from Hades. So you don't want to be standing in front of that. And I think if I'm RDA's coach, I'm like, dude, the only reason we take this fight is to try and get this guy to the ground, push him into the fence. Do not engage with this guy at distance. Neil Magny was able to neutralize him against the fence for large portions of that fight. Neil Magny got picked up, thrown to the ground, guard passed, and embarrassed by RDA. That's what happened when they fought. So I think that when you look at the skill level, if RDA is on top of this guy, I think he's way better. I think he's a much better grappler, and I think he could submit him. If he can't get it to the ground, which Jeff Neal is typically pretty good at D'ing up the takedowns, then it's probably going to be a really ugly fight, like Tim mentioned, where it's mostly them against the fence. And, you know, you probably see a little more damage from Neal because he hits a little harder, but sometimes he's just sitting there like watching a fight pass him by, backing up, letting the fight pass him by. One of his most recent wins, I think he's 2-4 in his last 6. And one of his wins is a split decision against Ancient Ponzinibbio, who just wants to kickbox. So I think when you look at the body of work, like, yeah, Jeff Neal is a better fighter, like should have better results, but he's just not having them, right? He goes out there and he just puts on a worse performance than you expect time after time. And I thought against Ian Gary, a guy I like and respect, I was like, man, this is where the rubber's going to meet the road. And then you just watch him like let the fight pass him by. His corners yelling at him, screaming at him, do something. And he's like, just watching it. And I couldn't understand it. So for me, I think since that near-death experience, my man hasn't been the same. 11-1 RDA on his 40th birthday to go give himself a gift, which is step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's over. When you get these guys that aren't on your level to the ground, that's kind of what I see here. So for me, it's an uphill battle, but that's the way I see it, man. And I've bet on RDA a couple of these recent fights, and everybody tells me after, bro, what a great bet. But then nobody's there the next time because he's 40, because all the reasons that are scary beforehand. I agree with you. But then you look at the performances, like he almost knocked out, what's his name? Gamrot in the first round, hit him with a huge knee. Gamrot needed to wrestle for his life. And I do think that doesn't get any credit or respect. Going, this close to beating Colby Covington for a welterweight title is just memory old. Nobody remembers that. And for me, I just think that the guy deserves respect. So ultimately, tough fight for him. I don't think the UFC's done him any favors, but can he submit this guy? I truly believe the answer is yes. And if you look at the Moicano fight, Moicano's having his renaissance, right? Moicano is the fucking man right now. And he got dummied within an inch of his life by RDA. And if RDA wasn't a nice old Brazilian guy who wanted to show him a little compassion and like brotherly love, he would have finished him brutally, in my opinion. He head kicked him into another dimension, and then he just started going on prevent defense to not have this guy die in the octagon. So I think that when you look at Moicano and how he's done recently, you see he's very quality, he's very skilled. He had nothing for RDA. So RDA is a hit and miss guy, no doubt about it. But at 170, he doesn't cut all that weight. He's not going to feel like shit, and his brain's going to have water in it. So I think he's got a better chance to win than he did at 155.
I still have PTSD from that fight, by the way. I had 3-4-5 RDA, so.
Yeah, I mean, great breakdown. Man, RDA, I had RDA against Gamrot. I had freaking Neal against both fights, painful to watch, painful losses, both underdogs. Neal, he gets stuck on the cage so much, man. It's so annoying for a guy that's physical, he's strong. Like, how do you always get stuck on the cage like that? And so, can RDA kind of implement that game plan and push him on the cage, maybe go for a takedown, maybe get one? The one thing that I did notice with RDA at 170, he's had trouble getting takedowns. He really has. And I think the size has mattered. You look at him at 55 and he's fucking taking guys down like no problem, right? But now he's getting to 70. It just doesn't seem like he can get these guys down easily. And Neal does have great takedown defense. The guy is strong. I do think Dos Anjos might get a takedown or two, honestly. I just think that Neal probably pops right back up if he does. This fight to me is like, it's so bad, like from a prop perspective. There's nothing really good. I think the KO line is about right for Neal. You mentioned the sub line. don't mind that. You know, if Dos Anjos can find those positions, it's just going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be hard. Neal by split is like shitty. What's Neal by split, Tim? Because I wrote down his decision and it sucks.
And
but I really don't like anything.
It's like it's plus 550. It's like plus 400.
It's so bad, man. Split decision Neal is 550. Like I don't really know what to give here. That's a good that's a good line. I really don't. Plus 125 Neal decision. I mean, horrific. You know. I guess RDA split is probably the best line. What is it? 11-1, Tim?
RDA split is 12-1, and then his decision is 5-1, and split is 4-1.
I think RDA split 11-1 is how I would go here. Honestly, if he wins, it's probably going to be some close split decision. And like Liam mentioned, to his credit, he just went to split with Ponzinibbio, the ghost of Ponzinibbio. So, you know, why can't he be on a losing end of a split here against RDA, who at this point in their careers, I think he's better than Ponzinibbio. So, yeah, I mean, split for RDA, I guess, it would be my call here. Moving on, fight number 8. It is in the light heavyweight division. It is the 13-1 Ibo Aslan versus the 11-0 Rafael Cerquera. Liam, this one's yours, my friend.
Sure thing, my man. This is a fight where, you know, you look at these two guys, and I'm not an Ibo Aslan guy. I'm never going to be an Ibo Aslan guy. I think that he's got good physicality. You know, he's got a better path to making it in life as a male model or something. He's not a bad fighter. He's got some knockout power. He's got, you know, a willingness to walk forward through some adversity. But frankly, against who? Right? Against Anton Turkalj. Like, this guy has been brought to the brink of death twice by Anton Turkalj. And I don't think that's a good look, right? Anton Turkalj went 0-4 in the UFC. We could call a spade a spade. He got some tough matchups. Yeah, he also just didn't win anything, right? So they tried to put him out there a couple of times. I actually bet him by sub against Vitor Petrino. And if you look back, that's the only guy he took down in the UFC. He took him down 5 times, right? I think 7 takedowns for Petrino. They literally just rolled all over the cage like a bunch of fools. And then you look back and like, okay, yeah, he beat up the takedowns from Turkalj. But then I'm like, they weren't really good committed takedowns. And Turkalj honestly seemed content to fight him on the feet for the most part because he was having a lot of success. He was walking forward, swinging reckless bombs. And then this guy got hit with a low blow in round 2 and takes like, you know, 3 minutes to like deep breathe in. My man's like leaning against the fence. He looked horrifically tired at the end when he knocked the guy out. I thought it was an early stoppage. Like, yes, I think it's fair enough. The guy fell over. He was definitely on wobbly legs, but how do they normally judge whether to stop it? If the guy falls back and doesn't brace himself, they stop the fight. The guy falls back, braces himself on both hands, and is looking up at his opponent in a guard, and they stop the fight. I'm just like, the consistency is never there. So I think Ibo Aslan, his biggest win, his biggest claim to fame is either Robert Valentin, which is a fine win. I think that's solid enough, but a smaller guy, or Anton Turkalj. And I'm like, so what really is head and shoulders above this other guy, Rafael Cerquera? And that's where I can't come up with an answer. I see why the money came on him at plus money. People are like, hey, let me see if I can, you know, maybe get some potential here. And when you're looking at his black belt under Galpa de Luta, where is Ibo Aslan training his grappling, right? Like American Top Team Zagreb, I've seen a couple pictures of him wrestling. That's it. I went through his whole Instagram. I went to the end. Is this guy a BJJ? What? Like, is he a...
He
Please
did
go ahead.
He did most of his camp at Extreme this time, just so you know. Like, I think he was there last camp too.
Thank you. So in either case, right? Like, is Extreme known for their wrestling and grappling? Like, let's just be fair. No, like they're almost anti-wrestling and grappling, if anything, right? Look at Brad Tavares, won't attempt a submission in 30 UFC fights. So I think about this guy as, okay, he's probably got a half decent, like, sprawl game, right? First layer, going to try and D up the takedown. What happens if this guy gets taken down even once? I have no confidence, no faith that he knows what to do, that he could get back up to his feet, that he could defend any submissions from a black belt from Galpa de Luta, who, by the way, the other people we've seen from Galpa de Luta have been having a lot of success, taking people down, dominating them from top position in the UFC. This guy's got a highlight reel of him just knocking out bums on the Brazilian regional scene. It doesn't tell me much. But I always judge who gives you your black belt, right? And so if you got your black belt from somebody I've never heard of, I'm like, I don't really know what to make of this. But Jailton Almeida's got the same black belt, and it's looked fucking very effective so far in the UFC. So 8-1 on the submission. Thank you. Let's find out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you here. I dug deep on this fight, very, very deep, because there's not a lot of tape on Rafael, but I found a ton of tape on Instagram and just watched a lot of clips because I wanted to see what is this guy actually doing in his fights? Is he shooting takedowns? Is he like dropping people, getting on top, getting subs? Like what's happening? Because I think he has like 2 subs, right? If I'm not mistaken, he doesn't have many.
Correct.
But when I go back and watch those clips of him, he's actually wrestling a lot. And his shots are actually pretty good. They're pretty quick. When his entries are very quick, he gets on the hips. He's getting these takedowns. And obviously, they're against bad fighters. Don't get me wrong. And what I will say is Ebo has good takedown defense. I do think he has good takedown defense. I do think he's very physical and strong. I don't think it's going to be easy for this Rafael guy to just get him down, right? I think it's going to take a little bit of work. And the other thing I noticed with Rafael that I didn't like, actually, it's a big red flag for me. He tends to always, I saw it in 3 different fights. I saw it in his training clip, and I kind of put it out there. He's always shelling up on the cage, man. Like, it's so bad putting your hands up, sitting on a cage, and just eating shots, right? I just don't get it. And I think that's a very bad game plan against a guy like Ebo, right? Because Ebo will just unload on him and throw everything he can. And the guy has power. The one thing you can't take away from him is he does have power, and he throws with everything. So I think that would be a dumb game plan to do here. It's just something, it's a bad habit. I want to say it's a habit. It's not, I don't even want to say game plan, but he does do it a lot. And he even did it in training. I'm watching some of his training, and he's doing the same shit again. He eats an uppercut from his training partner and then goes back to the wall and just covers up. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So, however, this guy is going to have a huge grappling edge. Like, when it comes to BJJ, it's going to be monstrous, and I can't look past what you just said. I have the same thing. It's 750 by sub. It's just something you kind of have to bet.
You can get 8-1 on FanDuel, just so you know, which it wasn't available earlier. That's why I'm letting you know, because I played it earlier at 750 and sub at 650, and I added at 800.
Yeah, that's a good look. I just think he's live for a sub. If not, I do think Aslan can knock this dude out. Honestly, I think this guy kind of gasses as well from what I've seen on tape. I feel like he gets a bit tired. He does a lot of spinning shit, a lot of kicking. He has very, very good body kicks. I will say that. But Ebo's tough, though. I will give him that. He's a tough guy. He will fight till the end. So, yeah, I'm going to give out sub as well. But this is like a fight I just want to stay away from, honestly. Tim?
Yeah, I'm gonna trifecta it with you guys on the sub here. I only saw like 4 minutes of highlights on Rafa, so I don't have enough on him. I'm going basically on the narrative what you guys are just saying on like who he's training with and being Brazilian, and then also just the Ebo grappling fade just in general. I just think that's a good way to go. Like you said, Ebo's probably got a very decent amount of opportunities to KO him in the first 7.5 minutes. I mean, he even KO'd. That was kind of a shit KO, like Liam said, versus Anton in the 3rd round. But I think he's got like power in his hands at all times, and I think most likely it's going to be a pretty dangerous fight if Rafa just tries to stand with him. I don't think he's, hopefully, I don't know, but I hope he doesn't do that. I hope he tries to take him down multiple times, tries to get him down and tries to sub him, because Ebo to me is just a guy that I just can't get behind at any point. So, yeah.
Let's sub plus 650 stock just went through the fucking roof.
Exactly. Let's go sub for Rafa here, 8-1.
All right. Moving on, fight number 9. It is in the middleweight division. It is the 14-0 Shara Bullet Magomedov versus the 8-3 Armen Petrosyan, and I will kick this one off. For me, this is a tricky fight in the sense that we have 2 kickboxers, right? One guy is obviously, I don't even want to call him a kickboxer. I should just call him a kicker, because that's what Shara is. I mean, he throws a little bit of hands, but my God, This guy has all types of kicks, very sneaky, very fast, insane amount of volume. You know what's surprising to me? He kicks so much, but yet he can keep it up for 3 rounds, man. It's pretty insane to throw all those kicks and not be tired. But he's so used to it. He does it in every single fight that the guy can just do it forever, man. And now he's facing a guy in Armen Petrosyan, who I think, when it comes to the overall striking and you talk about hands as well, I think he's probably a bit better because of the boxing, because of his hands. But the kicking game, you got to lean Shara here, in a big way. The one equalizer here is Armen going to grapple, right? Because we've seen Shara get taken down. We've seen Shara not really look. I mean, what does he do off his back? Throw elbows? Yeah, he throws volume, but really makes no attempt to get up, right? Which is not good. Armen, I've seen grapple before. I just don't know if he's going to do it here. It's an unknown. And if you tell me they're standing for 15 minutes, I'm going to favor Shara. I just think the volume, the kicking game, it's one of these guys that you can never train for, kicks from all over the place. Also with Armen, he tends to cut up very easily. He's been bleeding in a lot of his fights. And Shara has very, very sneaky elbows, man. Sneaky knees, sneaky elbows, very sharp with them. There's nothing that really I love here, but I think, and this is a hot take, a cut stoppage from Shara KO plus 350 is my hot take here. I don't think it's very likely that either guy gets a KO. Honestly, I think both guys are very durable. But lines are just not very good, and KO's 3.5 to 1, not the best either. But that's the way I'm going to lean here. Again, a play that I don't really like too much here. Tim?
Yeah, I think that this one for me is kind of like it was kind of easier to locate the prop that I wanted on this one. It's just 2 guys that are primarily they have been matched up. You get Petrosyan matched up completely differently. Like you get Petrosyan who gets these fucking grapplers and they're like elite grapplers and RoboCop and Vieira. Vieira by sub was like I love that prop so much. That was one of my favorite ones. It just seemed like such an easy button. And then you get Shara who's getting just the nicest matchups ever. Just guys who just never grapple and then you get these guys who never grapple, like Bruno Silva and Michael Oleksiejczuk, and they're getting takedowns on this guy. So it's not going to take elite grappling at all. It's not even going to take mid-level grappling to get this guy down. He's just piss poor on the ground and defensive grappling. I mean, I think that this fight for me is a clear ends by split and then taking. I think it's going to be Shara. Either way, I just think that a lot of people that have a ton of people are on Armen and think that he's going to win and they have justifiable reasons for why they think he's going to win. And I just think that there's going to be a bunch of people that are pissing and moaning about the decision and, oh, I can't believe that this is tragic. These fucking judges again. And I think even if Armen wins, I think it's a split either way, but I think it's probably going to be an end split and then a Shara decision by split.
All right. Liam, what do you got for us?
I'm in the unfortunate position of agreeing with the panel. I don't think this is a great fight for Lambos. I suppose if I had to come up with a Lambo, I would probably lean towards the split props as well. I think both these guys are very durable. I think that the cut stoppage is an interesting note. I also will just note that we have seen what's his name? Petrosyan finished, I believe, one time before via strike. So it's not like it's never happened. He hasn't fought that many times. Here's the thing that's sketchy about this fight for me. I'll just level with you guys. I always try and think about these fights in terms of the fight and also how it got made and all the things around it. And you've got a Russian Muay Thai guy who represents Armenia. But if you go back and listen to the interview when he was on Contender Series, they said, we need him to fight Israel Adesanya. Russian Muay Thai needs this fight. What? Wait, where? Not Armenian Muay Thai, Russian Muay Thai. So you've got a Russian guy against a Russian guy, and the one Russian guy's got a lot of followers. He's got a big following. Everybody knows who he is. He's in movies and shit. And the other guy is a fighter, right? That just goes out there and does his job. But let's just keep in mind, this is a guy who claimed he was poisoned when he went to Brazil. Do y'all remember this? Like, this, again, MMA is such a crazy sport. Shit just gets memory hold all the time. The guy gets poisoned. Yeah, just memory hold that. No problem. Maybe next time in Brazil, he says no. But you just look at this guy like, okay, has he been involved in some weird outcomes? Yeah. Has he been to a couple of close split decisions already? Yeah. Does he normally go to these fights that are like medium volume kickboxing matches where either guy could get their hand raised? Yes. And the problem with that is what, guys? They're probably not going to do him any favors, right? Just like they haven't already, just like they haven't with his matchmaking, just like they gave him Rodolfo Vieira. So I think that they don't care about this guy. I think that they know he's willing to go out there and fight anybody. And I do think that Shara is a poser, right? I don't mean to say he's not a good fighter. He's very good with the kicks. But we've seen Michal Oleksiejczuk, a purple belt, who's been a subpar UFC wrestler and grappler his entire career, put this guy through the paces a little bit in those phases. So I don't think that he's a bad fighter. I don't think he's an MMA fighter. I think he's a good stand-up kickboxer that's being match made so they can sell tickets in a different part of the world. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything longer or more detailed about it than that. So I think he could win by knockout. I think either guy could win. I think it's a competitive striking fight. But if you ask me, like, who's going to get the, bag of cash that says put up the hand of Shara Bullet, I think it's going to be the judges. And I think that whether it's two of them or three of them, I think they're going to raise his hand. That's the way I see it.
All right. Let's move on. Fight number 10 in the featherweight division. It is the 14-0-1 Lerone Murphy versus the 18-8 Dan Ige. Tim, kick us off here.
I think this is another one of those value loser spots here, kind of similar to the fights we were talking about before. Just think this is I think there's a couple of things that I would like in this fight. I think Ige KO 10-1 is absolutely fucking insane line. Like, that's a stupid line. Whereas Barbosa got beat by Lerone pretty bad in that fight, and there was some definitely really, really good moments in that fight. He also really clocked him a couple times in that fight and was able to connect a few times where he really did hurt Murphy. I think that if Dan Ige connects on one of those type of punches, I think it's potential lights out. And then I just have like the ends by split and the Ige by split at 3-1 and 11-1. I just think that I think it's most likely a Murphy decision pretty handily. Ige's super tough to finish, impossible so far to finish. Defends. The problem with this, the problem that I have with the Ige side is I just think that he can be clinched. I think he gives up his back and standing all the time in fights. He gives up his back when he gets taken down. It's like a major issue with him. So I feel like it's probably a Lerone Murphy decision, but I think like the ends by split or the KO props for Ige would be the way that I would go. I think they both lose, though, to be honest.
All right. Liam, what do you have here?
I'm going to keep this one simple, guys. I'm going with Dan Ige via decision at 5-1. Now, I don't think that the KO is a bad look from Tim, but I just think both these guys are super durable. I don't think either one of them is a quitter. I think both of them really want to be in the fight. They're dogs, right? You've seen both these guys be put in opportunities where they could have looked for the door, right? And honestly, people wouldn't have judged them either. Like big shots that landed. Dan Ige went down, I think, to a knee to the body in the 5th round against Zombie and still stayed in the fight. Like, the guy is a dog. And if you go back and look, he wins a round off everybody, essentially. Like, I think Movsar Evloev blanked him on the cards, and he's a top 5 guy. Outside of that, if you just look through his resume, whether it's Calvin Kattar in a main event, took a round off of him, whether it's Korean Zombie in a main event, took a round off him. This guy's been around in main events, in big fights for a long time. Now, does he have a standout win? Not really. You start peeling through the resume of Dan Ige, and he's been around. He's been a bridesmaid and never the bride, right? He fights everybody tough, and he normally just comes up a little bit short. And I think that could be the case again here, right? Like, you could definitely make a case for Lerone Murphy. Talented guy, never lost as a favorite, great ROI. He's done a great job. But now he's as big a favorite as he's been essentially in the UFC, right? I think he was one time a bigger favorite against a bantamweight, but you just look and it's like, okay, the guy is typically not this big of a favorite because he fights on pretty close margins. You look at the lines compared to the stats and you're like, wow, yeah, it was a competitive fight. Gabriel Santos, competitive fight, right? You look at the actual details, he outlanded him on strikes. I think the same thing's going to happen here, unfortunately. The one frustrating thing about Dan Ige is that no matter what, he does not throw enough volume. The guy throws like 60 strikes a fight. He is very frustrating in that regard. But what I will also say is this. That fight that he took with Diego Lopez on short notice, you could make a case for how it's tough on both guys. I agree with that. But in round 3, he broke Diego Lopez and he was walking him down with impunity. And I do think that when you look back at that fight, Diego Lopez gets a lot of credit and respect, right? Hey, he took the fight. He did everything he was supposed to. He was supposed to fight this guy, then fought this guy. Look at Brian Ortega. Did he offer the same resistance? Did he put on as competitive a performance as Ige? The answer is no, right? He got outed. He got audited. He was shown the door. It's told go up to 155. You know, it's not for you anymore. And I just don't think we saw that with Ige. I think he got the door shut in his face in pretty suboptimal circumstances. I think the guy is highly motivated every time out. So I think he's going to be swinging heavy shots. I think he's going to try and kill this guy. And here's the ultimate X factor. I think he can get takedowns in this fight. Lerone Murphy has shit takedown defense. Dan Ige shoots on everybody and gets stuffed, right? If you just look at his career, guys, he spends his whole life trying to wrestle these guys after he gets them to the fence, after he lands a couple good shots, and then he gets sprawled out on it. It doesn't work. And maybe that happens again here. Lerone is a physical guy. He's strong, and he's not a quitter in these scrambles. But is he very sophisticated? The answer is no. Like, just look at the Gabriel Santos fight and all the takedowns he got, how easy they were to hold for the most part. Lerone Murphy had to really go into dog mode to try and get back up and try and win the fight. And it was this close, and I didn't think he won it, right? So I think it was a very close fight that could have went against him. And Gabriel Santos has 1 win in the UFC, not 10. He hasn't been here 17 fights. He hasn't done main events against top 5 guys. So I think Dan Ige is a guy that doesn't get any credit or respect for the fact he's willing to say yes to every hard fight when a lot of these guys aren't. So his record looks a lot more red than a lot of these other guys who are picking their matchups. Lerone Murphy, around the same age, better fighter, better pedigree. But does he have any one skill set that jumps out? It's like he's going to dummy him here. I think volume is his only thing that I could say, like, far and away, I'm confident that he'll probably have more volume here. But aside from that, could somebody get hurt here? Like, yeah, I think either one of them could get hurt. I just think they're both really tough and durable, hard to finish. So it's like, it's probably going to be a competitive fight that more often than not hits the scorecards. And this guy's gone to split before. He's gone to a draw before in the UFC at these prices. Give me Dan Ige. Decision, split decision, maybe even money line. Like, I just think the line's off.
All right. Let me ask you guys a question. This fight here, what fight does it remind you of last week? If there's a fight that it should remind you
I'm pulling up the card.
Yeah, I got to look at it as well.
There definitely should be a fight that one guy on that card was this.
Rob Font, Tyler Phillips.
No one gave him a chance.
Rob Font, Tyler Phillips.
Exactly. No one respected Rob Font, a veteran of the game. No one gave him a chance against Kyler Phillips, including myself.
5 points.
Well, including myself. I'm not saying I thought Phillips was going to win there. And I swear, I feel like it's the same thing going on here. Young, Murphy, the up-and-comer. Now, he's not younger. I think I want to say Ige is the younger guy of these two. Am I wrong? Because I can't really see the stats.
I believe you're right. Let me pull that up. If not, they're within a year or something. They're very similar in age.
Same age, 33.
Is he younger?
Same age, 33.
Same age. Okay. So, there's the same age. Ige has a lot more UFC experience, right? And I pointed this out too, Liam. This guy, Lerone Murphy's takedown defense is not good, man. It just is not freaking good. And I said that. And then Ige, he shoots a lot of takedowns. And the people that he's not taken down actually have very good takedown defense. This is not the guy that has very good takedown defense. So I do think he can land takedowns, honestly. I really do. And I think he can land multiple takedowns, not just one. But I will leave you guys with one thing. I want to keep this very short. I have Dan Ige by KO at 10-1. And here's my reasoning. Look at the fight against Tukugov, okay? He got dropped on his ass bad. Do you know by what punch? Left hook. Do you know fucking Dan Ige's favorite punch? The left hook. Like, this guy, Lerone Murphy, he's a good, don't get me wrong, he's a good striker. He's competent, very good striker. but he tends to loop his punches a lot. His you know, he's a southpaw. He'll loop his right hand. He'll loop his left hand. And Ige, when you loop your right hand, he can get you with the check left hook. And if he lands the check left hook, dude, you can go night-night. Like, I don't think you can recover from, if he lands it flush, you're not fucking recovering from it. You're going flat out. And he's done it many times. You know what I'm saying? So 10-1 is just, I get it. Laron Murphy's never been knocked out, but I've seen him knocked down against Tuhugov. I've seen him hurt against other people, and Ige hits harder than all these guys. So it's kind of disrespectful to give him a KO line of 10-1, and the guy can put your lights out with one punch. You know, so I took it. I mean, I couldn't look past getting a huge, probably doesn't happen, right? But when I see this guy getting dropped by a left hook against a grappler in Tuhugov, then fuck that. I'm going to play Ige at 10-1, and that's his favorite money punch, you know. Maybe he gets the 50K, baby, with the left hook. But yeah, I like the KO here at 10-1. And I agree with you with the takedowns. Moving on, fight number 11. It is in the light heavyweight division. It is the 19-1-1 Magomed Ankalaev versus the 14-4 Alexander Rakic. I think it's Liam's turn.
Okay, so then what we're going to do here, gentlemen, is we're going to go with a pretty simple one, okay? We're looking at Ankalaev round 2 plus 850, Ankalaev round 3 plus 1200. I prefer the KOs, but why get cute when it's those kind of prices, in my humble opinion? Here's the way I see this fight. If he goes out there and he wins a decision, I don't think he gets anything for it, right? I think he's gone out there and it's an exercise in futility. He moves forward in no division. Nobody gives a shit about him, just like they don't now. But the difference is, you look at a guy like Alexander Rakic. I was very specific in my write-up against Yuri. I was like, guys, this is a ballsy pick because I don't think Yuri's better at anything. Like, I think he's going to get beat up. I think he's going to be in dire situations, but ultimately he's not a quitter. Right? He's a warrior. He's a guy that's willing to go out on his shield. You got to kill the man. You got to drop him with a head kick. You got to put him down in a box, right? Otherwise, he's going to keep fighting you all day. And I don't think Rakic likes resistance. I think Rakic likes to be a big bad bully. I think he likes to kick people's head off. He's very capable of doing that. Outside of round 1, I don't like this guy. I think he's a quitter. I think he doesn't have the right pace. I don't think he's got the right physicality. He hasn't been in the octagon. I think he's had 4 fights in the last 4 years. And when he is out there, he's capitulating. So he capitulated to the samurai. That's exactly what happened. The samurai told him, sit down, young man. And he said, okay. And he didn't want to get back up. That's the way it went. And I think that when you look at this fight, Magomed Ankalaev, for all the faults, for all the problems that I've had with him over the years, maybe the lack of finishing instinct, some of the things he's done wrong, when you look at what the guy actually brings to the table, he's knocked several guys in the UFC dead. He's gone out there and multiple times iced Kutalaba and Walker because they didn't believe it the first time. It's like, this guy just has had a weird run out of his results. But when he's in fights, most of the time, guys don't want to be dealing with him, right? Like, unless they're able to get off with their low kicks, unless he's able to get him with a big head kick, I think what's going to happen is Ankalaev has more consistent offense over time, whether it's with the wrestling or with the striking on the feet. And I think he will eventually find him, hurt him, and break him down. So I think he's going to finish this guy. And, I do think Rakic, it's a live money line side at plus 3XX. Like, I acknowledge that. But when you just talk about everybody's on Ankalaev decision, I don't think Ankalaev decision does a fucking thing for him. So I think he's going to go out there and sell out, maybe have a little different risk calculus and say, if I get knocked out, I get knocked out, but otherwise I can't move forward in my career. So I think he might take a little more risk, and I think it might pay off. I think he's going to finish this guy.
All right. I'm on the other side, unfortunately. I just kind of feel like this line's pretty disrespectful for Rakic. I think the guy is skilled, and the one area where I think he really excels is Ankalaev's biggest weakness, right? It's the leg kicks, it's the calf kicks, right? And I know it's southpaw against orthodox, but if you go back and watch the Yuri fight, right? He chopped Yuri's lead leg off, right? What did Yuri do? He switched to southpaw, right? What did Rakic do? He started kicking the outside of his lead leg, right? Rakic is very tricky with his kicks, man. He's really good with them. And he started blasting them one after another. And you could see Yuri getting very uncomfortable, starting to slow down. His movement started to slow down. And if there's one thing that's a big minus for Ankalaev is he's not very smart. Go back and watch the Yan fight. Why in the world would you stand for that long when you knew you could get takedowns, but you decided to get your leg chopped off for fucking 2.5, 3 rounds, and then you started grappling? Like, where's the fight IQ? That fight cost him a title shot, because if he wins there convincingly, he gets a title shot. What does he do? He lays a goose egg, in my opinion, because it was a layup fight for him if he decided to grapple, and he didn't. And he got his leg chewed off, and he said, oh, now that I can't walk, I have to fucking wrestle. Dude, where's your fight IQ? You know? So I do think that's a concern for him, you know? And now Liam, is the fact that he said, and this influences me a bit, and it does, because he said Dana White told him, you're going to get a shot, but you have to win impressively here. You have to look good here. You know what that tells me?
AKA take risks.
Exactly. Don't wrestle. I don't want to see you wrestle. Take risks here. Knock the guy out on the feet. Well, guess what? You can also get knocked out because Rakic hits very hard. He's a big dude, right? And you can get your leg chopped off like it did in the other fight. So for me, it's like, I don't think Rakic can knock out Ankalaev, because I do think Ankalaev is tough as hell. He's shown a very good chin. He's been hit flush by many guys, and he just takes it. But decision is 7-1. Split is 18-1 on freaking Rakic. You know, Ankalaev is a very good fighter. Is he the better fighter too? Definitely. Better striker, more technical, better grappler, you name it, right? But fight IQ is not something I love. The comments that he made, what Dana White told him, is not what I love. And seeing him get his leg chewed off is just a bad look when it comes to the fighter he's fighting now, because this guy can definitely kick, and he can kick hard. So, yeah, I like Rakic here at 700 on the decision, and the split at 18-1. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny is that I have both of yours. I think Rakic split is his money line at 18-1. I think it's going to be really hard for him to get a unanimous decision versus Ankalaev in this setting. And I have also Ank round 2, round 3 for the reasons that you guys both said. I just think like he's got to try to put something on it. He has to be less risk averse in this fight and try to show that he's worthy of having an opportunity to get a title shot and have people want to watch him fight. Like, this is one of those dudes where it's like you watch him fight and you're like, should he be the champion? Yes. Should he also possibly be in PFL because he's so fucking boring? Yeah. Like, really, honestly, like I could see this dude being like, they're cutting this guy that can easily be the champion in their promotion. It's just like, dude, come on, get some balls, go after your shots, fight smart, finish this fucking guy in round 2 or round 3. Like, I haven't liked what I've seen from Rakic later on in fights. I haven't liked what I've seen from him when he's taking damage. So yeah, I think that this is Ank for, round 2, round 3. And like I said, like what you're saying on the Rakic side, like greasy ass split decision is the only way I could see him winning a fight.
All right. Let's move on. Co-main event of the night. It is in the middleweight division. It is the 26-7 Robert Whittaker versus the 13-0 Khamzat Chimaev. I will kick this one off. I still question Whittaker's chin, man. The guy's getting dropped by jabs. The guy's getting rocked in every fight. 3 different fights he got dropped with a jab. Like, I can't get over that. Like, your chin is probably not very good. Chimaev still, he throws hard on the feet, but he's going to absolutely take down Whittaker, man. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, Whittaker is not stuffing this guy's takedowns. Don't kid yourselves. Early, right? Early. And then it's a matter of survival, right? Is he going to survive? Look what he did to Usman in round 1, right? He absolutely put him through the ringer. And then he got tired. I think Chimaev KO 1-2. I don't think he's subbing Whittaker. I think it's going to be like just damage from ground and pound. We saw the same thing against DDP. I think Chimaev has still nasty, nasty ground and pound as long as he's fresh. Chimaev KO 1-2 is plus 300. Not the best number, but I truly think that he's going to finish Whittaker. I don't think Whittaker, after, kicking Alaskarov, or I'm sorry, knocking Alaskarov out last fight early on, it doesn't really tell me much about his chin or if he can defend takedowns against a guy like Chimaev. And so I do think Chimaev wins this fight. I think a way to play this fight, honestly, is if you're looking at the money line, do not touch Robert Whittaker now. Why would you? He's going to go through the ringer in round 1. I can guarantee you that. And you can get probably Robert Whittaker live at probably 500, 600, 700. Who knows, right? So why mess with him pre when you can get him live at a way, way bigger number? So I would attack it in the sense that play Chimaev money line pre, and then you can easily ARP off if Whittaker survives and takes it a little deeper, and you get both sides. And if Chimaev finishes the round 1, well, your ticket cashes. So that's how I look at this fight, honestly. Whittaker, I know he's got historically good takedown defense, but he's never faced a wrestler like this. And quite frankly, he's not stuffing takedowns early. I just don't see it. Tim, what do you got here?
Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. Like, there's nobody. It's similar for me to the main event with Max Holloway when we're just talking about like who is the best wrestler that this guy has faced? Who are the best wrestlers that these guys have faced? And who are the best grapplers with jiu-jitsu that these guys have faced? And it's like, there's no question that Robert is Yoel probably is the best wrestler, but like it's an old Yoel, and there's no way that you can say like cage wrestling and MMA wrestling that they're even remotely close, in my opinion. I just think that Chimaev is just a whole nother fucking level. Hey, he's got the internet back. Good shit. So yeah, I think that Chimaev is just on a completely different level wrestling. I think the narrative on his cardio is a little bit off. I think he can fight 3 rounds. I think he can fight potentially even 5 rounds. He got takedowns against Usman in round 3. It wasn't like he was completely ineffective. He was throwing shit. The takedown attempts were shittier, and there's no question about it. He does look like he is tiring without a doubt, but he looks like he's functioning, and he is a kind of like a functionally gassing at that point. I do think, and even in if it does get out of round 1 and round 2, I do think that it's possible that he still could get takedowns in 3, 4, and 5 against Whittaker. So to me, though, where I disagree with Narcos is I think that the sub is actually really live. And for a few different reasons. Like, I think that Dricus had a chance for a Darce and just didn't go for it. Like almost every time that I saw people taking down Whittaker, he goes on his knees and he goes on like all fours, and like his back is there to be taken. Hooks can be taken. Like it just seems like it's a absolutely perfect spot for Chimaev to do what he wants to do. So I feel like it's not something that he's going to try to instantly get up, and he's going to instantly get to that position. And when he does, it's just exactly what Chimaev wants. So like you said too, man, round one for Usman, there's absolutely no way in the world that I see that he survives that type of round and that type of onslaught. So round 1, or Chimaev sub is plus 270. Chimaev sub 1 is plus 750. Chimaev sub 2 is plus 1400. I think those are really, really good lines. I think it's pretty 20-1 on Darce. I like that. I think that he's going to take his back. I think he's going to choke him out and take his back or potentially get him in a front choke in that same scenario. So yeah, like I think it's most likely a back take after he gets him on all fours and chokes him out.
All right, Liam, co-main. What do you like here, my friend?
Boys, I am in the uncomfortable position of feeling like I need to defend Robert Whittaker this week. And I have been a Robert Whittaker hater, right? Not in terms of like the guy's personality or something. I don't like dislike the guy, but I've always said the things that Narco pointed out. Like, he's a little bit chinny. He does get hurt in a lot of his fights. Been around for a long time, been finished a couple times now, bounced around weight classes, used to be a 170. Now he's a 185. He had more success there, obviously, but went through the ringer in those in the Romero series, right? On my birthday one year, they went to war, and I was like, man, these guys are impressive, but that was several years ago, right? Now we're all a couple years older, and this guy, Robert Whittaker, same thing can be said. Here's the tricky thing for me, though. I think of a guy like Chimaev as really scary, right? Like, you don't want to fuck with this guy, like, especially outside the cage, right? He'll kill you. But when you just look at this guy in the cage, what does he do really well? He's a nasty grappler. The guy just picked up Leach, disrespected him, walked him around the octagon, told Dana what he was going to do, and then did it, right? That was an impressive showing. But I think you look at his laundry list of impressive accomplishments, most of them are at 170 pounds. You start to look at his record at 185, and I do think it leaves a little bit more to be desired. A lot of people now want to give a lot of credit to these takedowns against Usman. And listen, I respect Usman, but I always said that I thought Usman's wrestling was overrated. And not to say that it's not good, but it's to say it's very offensive. It's very athletic. It's like grab a hold of you, rip you to the ground, push you into the fence, beat up your thighs, then wear you down and take you down as you get tired. It wasn't always like, look at that double leg, the precision, the speed. Like, none of it was that, right? It was just physicality, overwhelming, get a hold of you, push you into the fence, and do it until you break. That was the Usman special, right? He did that to Woodley for the duration of 5 rounds to get the title. But when you look at how he's progressed as he got older, the knees don't work anymore. The guy would rather be out there at boxing distance than he would be wrestling with anybody. And when he does start to get wrestled back, when guys wrestle into him, they have success. It's the guys that didn't want to wrestle, that just tried to defend the whole time, that got screwed. Then Leon Edwards flatbacks him to the full mount in the first round. And I had to, come back on people with some vindication. Like, yeah, maybe the wrestling isn't as good as I said it was, right? Like, we saw Leon Edwards take him down. I think he almost took him down the first time they fought. Then he did take him down the second time they fought. And then he competed in the wrestling much better the third time they fought. I think all of that is connected to Kamaru's knees moving the wrong direction, right? The guy can't walk upstairs, much less defend a takedown. So I think Chimaev did exactly what he needed to win the fight, and God bless him for it, right? The guy keeps finding ways to win, and God bless him for that. But I bet him inside the distance against Usman, right? And I was a little disappointed by that performance. Now, I'll give him a pass. I believe he submits that guy 100% if he does not land on his wrist in round 1. It was a very awkward fall. Y'all will see. He's like on the back, and Usman like falls forward with him, and he just bases out on his wrist. I've done it to myself wrestling before, and I'm pretty sure he hurt his hand and his wrist in that fight in the first round. That's a personal opinion. But you go back and look, the guy had a bunch of good opportunities, good positions early, and the positions got less dominant over the course of the fight. Right. And the one thing I'm worried about is this is against a welterweight. This is against a good guy that I respect. But what happens if he doesn't finish him early? Like, he didn't finish Burns. And the reason being, he respected Burns' grappling. He got him to the ground and he went, fuck this. And he stood back up. Good call. I actually think that was wise, right? Showed some wisdom. But then he goes out there against Usman. I thought he should have dominated in the grappling, period, point blank. No two ways about it. Leon Edwards is mounting this guy. You should be finishing him. He didn't do that. So I'll say, okay, this is one more chance, right? They're giving him a fight that they tried to book twice. So you clearly see they want to get this one across the finish line, right? I don't think the Askarov fight means a damn thing. You throw that out of the sample as far as I'm concerned. Askarov, he saw the bright lights. He was shitting his pants before the fight started. That's the truth. You look at this fight and you say, okay, Chimaev did it first with that big uppercut. He could still knock this guy out. But if they have a 25-minute striking fight, I favor Robert Whittaker pretty plainly over the course of that 25 minutes. If they go out there and Chimaev grapples him hard for 10 minutes and does not get the finish, I think he's going to be exhausted, guys. Just based on what I know about wrestling and grappling, you can't do things like fucking rip people around, squeeze as hard as you can and do all these rolls and moves and positions unless you get the guy out of there. And you look at Duplessis. Duplessis did not initiate the wrestling and the grappling. It was Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker grabbed a hold of the clinch and then he got sent for a ride. I don't think he ever saw it coming. And by the way, he got concussed instantly, guys. Go back and watch it. He's on the ground. And like you said, Tim, he baits the darce. But I'm telling you guys, the MMA meta has changed. When you bait the darce choke now and guys go to pop off on that hip, hing, 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 9 elbows to the face before you ever knew what time it was. And now you don't remember your name in between rounds. Robert Whittaker was finished in round 1 against Adesanya. He was finished in round 1 against, what's his name? Duplessis. But the second round was a mere formality. You understand? They had to go back out there because the guy's still technically conscious, but he doesn't know what time it is. He doesn't know what his name is, and he's trying to, reorient himself before the fight even starts. So I think to myself, if this fight ends in the first 2 rounds, I think we know who won it, right? I think we know who won it. If this fight goes longer, though, I think Robert Whittaker is extremely live in a fight that starts round 4 or round 5. I think he should be favored at that point in the fight. Because that means something went critically wrong earlier in the fight. So for me, that's the way I see it, man. And I'm a big Chimaev fan. I think it's Chimaev round 1 or 2 or Whittaker some other time after that, including the decision where I think they might try and job him on the cards. But Robert Whittaker, the one thing I will say about that Alaskarov performance, it was undeniable. He went out there and fucking starched that guy and yelled to the crowd. And he wasn't the guy that they were all rooting for, right? He just stuck it up their ass and told them where they could put it. And I do think he's a consummate professional. He shows up in shape every time, ready for 5 rounds. Could he get finished? Absolutely. Will he win in an extended fight? I think he should be favored to do so. So for me, that's how I truly feel. And it's not something I love to say because I'm a Chimaev guy. I think if you like Chimaev, the sub at plus 270 is probably the ticket, though I do think he's live to win by knockout. I just think the sub is much more likely. He's extremely aggressive, the most aggressive submission hunter maybe on the card, like 2.7 attempts per 15 minutes. The guy is ruthless there. But if he doesn't get him, I think he's going to spend a lot of energy. And I do think he can get him, right? Like, make no mistake. He can absolutely win in round 1 and 2. I said the same in my breakdown. But I don't trust him beyond that at all. And I think that Gilbert Burns dropping him with that left hook, the one thing I will say is go back and look at what punches Robert Whittaker hurts guys with. He hits them with a checking left hook as they step in very frequently. So I just think there's a couple paths to victory for Rob. And I'm normally the guy saying, Rob's fucked. He's going to lose. And then I lose units betting against him. But in this spot, I'm just like, are we sure that he can't defend for 10 minutes and then win this fight? Because I think that's his path, and I think he could do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say he can't defend. He can definitely defend. It's about I think it's more about, I would say, survival, right? Can he survive? And if he can, absolutely, I agree with you. Like, I don't believe Chimaev has good cardio. I think it's cardio management, man. He just, like Liam said, he's ripping people down. He's doing all these high energy stuff. You're just not going to be able to go 5 rounds like that. You're going to gas. And the difference between Usman in round 3 and Robert Whittaker in round 3 is that Robert Whittaker is a way better striker than Usman on the feet, right? Way better. It's not close. And
way
he
more
has
diversity
a
too. He can kick. He can kick.
He has a variety of strikes, right? That's what I was going to say. Like, the guy has variety of strikes. So you're tired now and you're eating fucking kicks and calf kicks and punches. And the other thing is, the difference also between Whittaker and Usman, which is very important, is now when you're tired and you're shooting for takedowns versus a guy that has very good movement, right? He's got very good footwork, Robert Whittaker. It's not going to be that easy. Like, yeah, he got him against Usman, and Tim is correct, but Usman is flat-footed, right? Let's be honest. The guy doesn't have any movement, right? So it's easier to get takedowns. But Whittaker's going to be moving, man. Like, this guy has great footwork. He's not going to be just sitting there flat-footed. Oh, there goes the takedown. No, he's going to be bouncing all over the place like he normally does. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great breakdown. I do think that's probably how the fight goes. A lot of times we say that, it's either this guy 1-2 and the other guy late, and then the fight goes completely opposite, right? It's hilarious. But I honestly don't see how this fight goes any other way. Like, if Whittaker survives early, I think Chimaev screwed later. Like, I'm going to be clicking that live button on Whittaker like crazy. So, yeah, great breakdowns by both of you. And we'll move on. Before we move on, guys, hit the like. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Promo deal underneath in the description, $308 for the first month. You get my Discord, you get my plays, live betting, all of that good stuff. And with that being said, we will move on to the main event of the night, and it is in the featherweight division. It is the 15-0 Ilia Topuria versus the 26-7 Max Holloway. Tim, kick us off here.
So I think, first of all, I think that this is just like a fucking amazing fight. This is one of the most excited I've been for a fight, just to see what goes on in a while. Great matchup. I got incredible respect for both these fighters. So it's hard to really hard to pick on this one for me. I see paths for both guys, and I think it's a really tough fight to call. That being said, I think that it's a really, really close type of decision here. Like if the fight goes, I think this is going to be a super, super close, greasy shit type fight where the volume edge is going to be with Max because it typically is 95% of the time. And you're going to see Max get hit by really big shots, and you're going to be like, "Oh, those are pretty huge shots." And I think those are. It's going to be really tough to decipher who's winning rounds. I think the boxing is. I think the boxing is way closer than people are saying. Like I think everybody's like saying that this is like Max all day when striking. I don't agree. I think that Topuria's boxing is legit. I just think that he doesn't go for as much volume. His power is there. His combinations, loves going to the body, set up the head. Like I said in the last fight too, I think that wrestling is there for Topuria potentially. Grappling is there for Topuria as well. I think that I legit think he's probably the best grappler that Max has fought. Like I was looking at fighters that Max has fought. Was looking at think Volk and Ortega. And I think that the wrestling for Topuria is better than both of those guys. I think the jiu-jitsu for Ortega is probably better. I think it's better by a decent amount, but I just think that Topuria is he's got very good jiu-jitsu. So I think that if he needs to wrestle or if he has the gas to do it, or if he needs to, he can just use it to help his striking too. Max has got to actually worry about that in this fight. Volk had some success as well when he was losing the fight early against Max, and he started grappling him. He started trying to take him down. So I just think that that's in the back pocket for Topuria. I think it's like a super, super close fight. So I like the end split at plus 550. And I'm going to take a shot also on the Max by decision at plus 700. I just think plus 700 for Max is just fucking stupid in any capacity and decision. The only guy he's losing to in decisions are champions. You get Volk 3 times, and then you get Dustin Poirier. Outside of that, he's winning every decision. And Topuria, I just think Topuria's got to really hurt him in 3 rounds or get takedowns. Obviously, he could bonk him, which is within the realm of possibility. But I just think plus 700 on a decision prop for Max in any capacity is like an auto click. And
where is 700, Tim?
FanDuel.
Damn, I missed it.
Yeah, so I could check. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was the last I checked was earlier today. So, let me check a second. Oh my God! Crushed 470. So yeah, I bet it at 700.
It started lower, peaked, and then got crushed really hard.
Yeah, I bet it already at 700. So I was just like, yeah, it made no sense whatsoever to me. So yeah, I feel like this is a super, super close decision. I thought that the end split for me at plus 550 was also kind of a stupid line. I was really expecting plus 400 on something like that. They typically are not hanging plus 550s on fights. Like the decision that goes to decision line or goes to distance line is not anywhere close to what they're lining it at here. So I think that the end split is also really, really good. So max points ends at where the line's at right now, I would just do end split at plus 550, but I like max points too. If you can find anything over 5-1 or around 5-1 or higher.
All right, Liam, fight of the night. Absolute banger, man. What do you like here, my friend?
Yeah, and this is another hard one for me, man. Last time out, Max Holloway plus 200, Max Holloway ITD plus 950. Absolutely fed families. I was very excited about those odds against Justin Gaethje, and I'm not a Justin Gaethje fan, so I was happy to see that happen. Right, all jokes aside, but it's just like I was like, man, Max Holloway, what a guy. Then you look at Ilia Topuria. I have even more positive memories, right? Plus 154, plus 125. And a lot of people told me I was a fool. And then he went out there and starched him in the way that I said he was going to. I bet it way early at plus 154. I think it closed as a favorite. So you look at a guy in Ilia Topuria, I think he deserves a lot of credit. I think he deserves a lot of respect. But now he's finally getting it, right? Last time out, plus 154, not getting the love and respect. This time out, minus 225 against a very, very good fighter. And I think that when you look at Max Holloway, he should be an underdog in this spot. The reason being is Ilia Topuria is probably a little bit better in the wrestling and grappling. I don't want to say he's head and shoulders above him. I think he's a very good grappler. I think he's a very good wrestler, but Max Holloway is simply undeniable in terms of his UFC quality of results. He's been submitted once in his UFC debut at 20 years of age, and since then he hasn't been finished, not on the feet, not on the mat. The guy's been out there with a bunch of killers throughout his career. Now, not as many wrestling and grappling threats if you look through. However, when he did meet those threats, more often than not, he came out aces. So then you say to yourself, okay, a guy like Frankie Edgar can't sniff a takedown, these kind of guys. Ilia Topuria is big, he's strong, he's technical. Maybe he could do that. But I don't think it's written in stone, right? I think the difference here between this and a lot of Max Holloway fights, most of the time, Max Holloway is the guy with better wrestling and grappling, and people don't talk about it. But that's the truth. And when he needed it against Yair, he bailed himself out, just got an easy takedown. He's like, all right, fuck this. I ain't need to get hit in the head with a baseball bat no more. I'm going to take this guy down and put him on his ass. I think that in this fight, that's where it kind of, the rubber meets the road a little bit more, right? We did see a guy like Volkanovski, who I bet very confidently against Max in the third fight, when a lot of people felt differently. I was like, I felt Max put on the best performance he possibly could in fight number 2 and lost. So if you can't win with that performance, I was like, there's nothing he's going to do different this time that Volk can't adjust to. Volk is a great fighter. He's an all-time great fighter. He was a pound-for-pound number 1 at that time, and I truly think his fall-off has been drastic. It's not that he's a worse fighter now. It's that he's not as confident, and he can't take a punch the same. And he got knocked out brutally at 155 pounds. He said, I was basically drinking out of camp. I was having, no real rhyme or reason to my life. I accepted this fight, for no reason. All bad signs, right? So then he was forced to take a quick turnaround to justify his honor and go show that I'm still the man. That's all like good, fun talking points. It's not good for your career, right? It's not good career management. So a guy like Max Holloway has been around forever. And what's the one thing that was holding him back from fighting for the title at 145, guys? Alexander Volkanovski. As long as he was there, Max was just fucking stuck in limbo. 0-3 is not going to sell. But now he gets the viral knockout of the year. Ilia takes the title from this guy, and they're like, hey, anything's possible. Let's go see. I truly think this is the best fight you can make on paper right now in the UFC. It's certainly top 5 for me in terms of skill for skill, matchup for matchup. Like, who else are you going to put in there? Ilia's great. He's great everywhere, but he has known vulnerabilities. He can get kicked in the head. And this guy, Max Holloway, dropped Volkanovski with a kick to the head. He has very good kickboxing. He's a Hawaiian kickboxer. He walks out to the song. Topuria is the better boxer, which a lot of people don't want to take for face value, but it's a fact. But here's the problem. The better boxer doesn't always win, right? Sometimes people get kicked in the head. Ilia Topuria was kicked in the head by Goncalves. He was kicked in the head by Josh Emmett. Nobody remembers that one. And he was also kicked in the head and almost finished by Jai Herbert at 155. Is Jai Herbert on the same level as Justin Gaethje at 155? No, and nobody would pretend that they are. Yet this guy, Max Holloway, fucking dummied Justin Gaethje all around the octagon for a long time. And meanwhile, my guy Ilia dropped a round against Volk and then went out there and killed him. I was impressed by the performance, but I can't say I was surprised. I thought that was going to happen. I thought he was going to knock him out. I picked KO 1 or 2. So now I say to myself, here, everybody's saying like, he's going to knock him out. He's going to kill him. And I always want proof of concept. That's all I want. I want to know that it's happened before. I want to know that you can repeat something, because fighting oftentimes is pathological. And I just look at this guy and I'm like, until I've seen him dead, until I see somebody carry his head out of the octagon, you can't predict it for me. So could I see it? Yeah. Like, am I saying it's a 0% or no? That would be foolish. You would be foolish to think that. But am I saying that it's like, 35% of the time he gets knocked out here, which is what the market is saying? I can't really get there. I just can't get there. So for me, if I have to pick one way to play this, it would be Holloway decision plus 510. I do not think that he is the guy that's going to, knock out Ilia Topuria. I do think Ilia can get clipped, but I think Ilia's got a lot of heart. I don't think he'll give up on himself. I think he is a warrior, but could I see him falling behind on the strike count in this fight? 100%. That is the one thing about Max Holloway that he has over every UFC fighter. Name a fighter that's going to have better volume. It's not going to happen. So the only way you can get past that is to be Volkanovski, D up all the strikes that are coming back at you, kick Max in the legs, get him uncomfortable, get him off his rhythm. That's how you do it, right? You have to get him off his rhythm. But this guy Topuria is not talking about that. He's talking about, I'll meet you in the middle and start striking right away. And Max Holloway will then throw 100 significant strikes in round 1. Is that really how you want to start a title fight with a guy like this? Like, maybe you can knock him out, but if not, I think it's going to be, what the fuck did I get myself into? So I don't like the talk from Ilia Topuria. It's almost a little like, I say this, last time out, I thought confidence was the number one selling point. He's going against Volk. Volk's not confident. He is confident. Is Max not confident? Like, Max seems like the most confident guy in the world every time he goes out there. And afterwards, he called out Ilya, and Ilya looked like he was fucking pooing his pants, right? And I just say that as an Ilya fan. That objectively, that was what I saw. Max is calling his name and saying, I want to fight you right now after he just knocked somebody fucking dead. And then all of a sudden, Ilya's like, fucking sitting there like he's got a fucking sourpuss on. And I was like, I don't like that visually. So do I think the right guy's favored? Yeah. Do I think the price is prohibitive? Yes. And do I think that Max Holloway is live if this fight goes over 3.5 rounds? Absolutely. So I'm maybe not getting in pre, but I'm maybe, looking at a Max Holloway live entry because just like that last fight, these guys are fucking killers. These guys are legit as good as they're advertised. But what happens if they don't get the success that they thought they were going to have? It's not the fight that's so hard. It's the fight that's harder than you thought it was going to be. And these guys both think I'm going to run through this guy. I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to finish him in 2 rounds. And what happens if they don't? It might look like Rebecki and Carlos Diego Ferreira, where a guy who's been around for a long time and knows how to take an ass whooping and then come back on you says, hey, you're starting to get tired? Oh, hold on to this one, buddy. And I'm just saying Max Holloway is like the king of that shit. Okay, so for me, I'm not ready to go say, all units in, fade Max Holloway. I just don't see it that way. I see him as a guy who's still at the latter end of his prime. He had a really tough matchup against a tactical guy in Volkanovski. This guy is not like Volkanovski in terms of, I'm going to go out there and outpoint you for the round. I'm going to compete you for every position. It's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And Max is just not afraid of that kind of guy. So may he die? Yes, he may. He is not going to show him respect. But may he uncrown the king? He may. So I think Max Holloway's a live dog. I think the decision's a little too wide.
Narco, are you there? Yeah, to add, well, maybe Narco will come back. There, you back? There you go. Oh, we lost him. Maybe he'll be back in with us shortly. To add to what you were saying I saw a bunch of nervous energy in the face-offs and just also like. After the fight, after the call out by Max.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Sorry. Let me finish this real quick. Sorry, dude.
Go.
The call out by Max, you could tell that like Ilya was like, "Hey, are we going to set up Volk too?" Like he didn't. He was like, well, "Let's do that one. I'm more confident in that one." You could kind of tell that Max is not on his hit list right now and that he would take some other fights. So I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I mean, this is an incredible fight, honestly. And if anybody knows, like actual boxing, like Ilya's head and shoulders above Max when it comes to just hands, right? Like his head movement, just the boxing. It's really, really, really solid from Ilya, man. Body, head. Very compact, and you could see he's heavy on his lead foot. The guy is just trying to chuck really, really big hooks, right? The guy's boxing is just superb. And what I will say, I think it's a very important aspect of this fight. And I haven't really heard anybody mention it, but Gagey last fight, right? He landed a couple of very, very solid calf kicks that were bothering Max early. And then towards the end of either round 1 or round 2, Gagey eats a big knee. It was like a step-in knee where he broke his nose, right? Very, very bad. And the whole game plan of kicking went out the door for Gagey. I don't know what happened. Maybe that bothered him. I don't know what went on, but he just completely abandoned the kicks after that. And I think if Ilya's smart, he should be throwing those calf kicks. He has very, very heavy calf kicks, man. Very nasty ones. And I think he should implement him here just to slow down Max's movement, right? You want to slow down Max's movement because the guy on the front foot is going to be Ilya. Like, I have no doubt in my mind, right? You want to corner Max. His whole thing is he wants to corner Max, kind of similar to what he did to Volk, right? And for you to do that, I do think you need to be kicking calves. I do think you need to cut off the cage. And I do think Ilya's going to land some big shots here. It's a matter of, can he knock out Holloway, right? Because Holloway's never been knocked out. He did get hurt. I mean, he did actually get dropped against Gagey. If you want to look at it, like it was definitely a knockdown. I don't know how they didn't count it, but UFC stats didn't count it as a knockdown. It was 100% a knockdown. But outside of that, he kicked Gagey's ass. I mean, bad. So the thing is, like, mixing in of takedowns, the jiu-jitsu. Can he get takedowns? Yes, Ilya can. I don't think he's, like, subbing Holloway. Like, Holloway is so good when it comes to those sub defenses. He's going to try to work back up. He definitely has the volume edge. He definitely has the cardio edge. Those are two things that you're just never going to take away from Holloway, right? Cardio and volume. Like Liam said, volume. You're never going to out-volume this guy. And Ilya's not going to – he's not the guy that out-volume many guys anyways, right? Even look at the Volk fight, last one, right? He got out-volumed, but he caught Volk. I think the most important thing for Max, honestly, is he needs to find a way to hurt Ilya early. Because if he hurts him early, then maybe he can slow him down from just plodding forward and cutting off the cage and winging these big hooks, right? He needs to freaking hurt him early, and I think that's very important for him. If he doesn't hurt him early, it's going to be an uphill battle, just in the sense that eventually Ilya's going to get to him, in my opinion. He's going to land these big shots, and it's a matter of, can Holloway take him? And honestly, Ilya's probably the biggest hitter at 45. I mean, the guy hits very fucking hard, man. And I just don't know at this point in his career. Like, I know Holloway's tough. He's been through so many fucking wars. So I'm going to go with Holloway decision as well. I just think when Tim told me 7-1, I'm like, where's that? And I fucking missed the line. It was yesterday. I got, plus 510. I think fight goes to split at 550 is not actually bad at all. It's going to be, volume over the bigger punches from Ilya, and just a matter of, if it goes to decision, how the judge see it. Now, if he's dropping, Holloway and doing all these kinds of stuff, well, then it's probably going to be one-sided. But I just don't see it like that, man. Holloway's too damn tough. Great cardio. He's going to probably win round 5 at a very high clip if it gets there. And Ilya, honestly, is a little bit of a slow starter. I feel like he starts a little bit slow. He's a guy that's trying to measure his opponents, trying to kind of walk them down, make sure, getting the angles right, stuff like that. So he could potentially lose round 1 as well. So, yeah, I mean, I just think it's a close fight. I don't think the money line's accurate. I'm not touching either side, honestly. I just want to watch the fight and enjoy it. Maybe a live bet, but Holloway by decision 5-1 is a little bit off, in my opinion. I think that's his win condition. I do think Ilya has a great chin and it's extremely durable. And I don't think Holloway's like, even though he knocked out Gagey, I don't think he's a one-punch fighter, honestly. I just don't. He's more of a death with 1,000 cuts type of fighter. So, yeah, Holloway decision, split decision here is where I'm going to go. Done with that. Lambo Parlay. I don't want the internet to go out again. I'm on my phone. I will start it off real quick. Lambo Parlay for me is going to be Neal decision. Chimaev KO 1, 2, and 3 at plus 230 on FanDuel. And Abus rounds 2 and 3. It's 47-1 and 80-1. If you put round 2, it's 47-1. If you put round 3, it's 80-1. And I got one more. It's Kennedy 2-3, Orolbai 2-3, and you go anywhere from 23-1 to 153-1. So, yep, there's 4 different bets I made there. So Kennedy round 2 KO, Orolbai round 2 KO, and so on and so forth with submissions. And it's 23-1 up to 153-1. Yeah, Tim, what do you got for your Lambo Parlay?
I did Basharat 2-3, Chimaev 1-2. that goes anywhere from 31 to 1 to 65 to 1. And then I did Basharat by sub, Max by points, Chimaev by sub, and it was 114 to 1, but now it's going to be down to like 95 to 100 to 1.
All right. Liam, your turn, my man. You're going to give the people
All right, guys. Last time we rimmed it. Last time we rimmed it. We had a pretty good look. We had Aldo KO, and unfortunately, that was the leg that it all fell apart on. But we were doing pretty well up till that point. So here's what I'm going to offer you. It's called the submission special for today. Shout out to our guy, Diehard MMA. What we're going to go with is Cerqueria submission. If you want to be more conservative, you go with the ends by submission at plus 650. But this is on FanDuel, 800 for Cerqueria submission. And then either fighter by submission in Barnett and Nchukwu at plus 600, which is essentially the best line you can get on Nchukwu to win by sub. And you're getting the ends by sub at the same price. I don't think Barnett submits him at a very high clip, but MMA is a stupid sport. You don't want to be crying in your coffee. So for me, I think that that at plus 6,200 is a pretty decent way to look. But if you want to go out further on the risk curve, to quote my guy, Yanni the Greek, then what I would say is you either add Dan Ige by decision or on the money line. On the money line, it'll get you about plus 19,745. And if you instead opt for the decision, which is plus EV on FanDuel and how I personally think he gets it done, plus 37,700. So we're talking about big numbers here. It's going to be a long shot, but Lord willing, we can get one of these across the finish line.
All right. Awesome. Another big Lambo parlay from my guy, Liam. What's my okay. We're going to run back that favorite one. My favorite would be, yeah, my favorite is Orolbai 2-3, honestly. That's my favorite. I think he gets it done. What's your favorite, Tim? Tim, you're on mute.
Sorry, rookie mistake. I would go with Chimaev by sub.
Chimaev sub. Liam, favorite prop?
Cerqueria sub.
Ooh, baby. All right, there you go. Orolbai 2-3, Chimaev sub, Cerqueria sub. Who knows what that is? That's probably some crazy number. But thank you very much, guys. 562 live viewers. Appreciate you guys. We went a lot longer than I expected, but a lot of issues on my end. I apologize. Thank you very much to my co-host, Timothy. Thank you very much to my guest, Liam. Liam, the floor is yours, my man. Thank you again for joining. Tell them where they can find you, what you have on the horizon. The man's always busy, so go ahead. The floor is yours.
Appreciate you very much, my man. I was working on my article right up until the time I got on the air, so I just finished my write-ups for all these fights. They're all available on Patreon in the navigation document, broken down by main card, prelims, and early prelims. Also, I will be live again shortly. So you guys, if you're looking for more talk about these fights, I will hopefully have a great guest. I will definitely be live on my own channel at Liam Picks Fights. So if you want to talk more about these fights, if you want me to break it down aside from just the Lambo components, because I did try and go a little further out on the risk curve today. Whereas if you want all my analysis, I'd be happy to discuss it all with you in probably about 25 minutes or so. So if you're not tuckered out, if you still got time, energy, and enthusiasm, come meet me and I'll have all the same for you in not too long on the Liam Picks Fights YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for the support.
All right. Thank you very much, my man. Go support the man. He's always in here, always giving good takes. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate all of you. Good luck tomorrow. Very early fight card. It will be in my Discord live. Again, good luck, and let's cash those tickets for UFC 308. Peace.